How are you doing, my friend?
Marvelous. Yourself, Walt?
I'm okay. I came back from the deep north where the internet was slow, and so am I. So it was a perfect fit.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yes.
You're sorely
And
missed.
there was no smoke up there either.
Well,
Do
that's
you?
everywhere now, isn't it? You're not allowed to go. You can't even smoke in a restaurant anymore now, can you, Walt?
No, you
Oh,
can't.
no smokers in the fires, you mean?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
what I meant. Yeah. But it was like the 80s up there. They had smoking pits everywhere. You could smoke, but it was gravel. So what are you going to burn down, right?
Yeah, it's hard to smoke gravel.
That's right. Hey, your interview last week with Kelly was fantastic. I've got a little clip I want to share with everybody, and then we'll bring her on in a few minutes. Okay.
Marvelous.
2019, before the pandemic hit, 140 million Americans were living in poverty or just one emergency away from economic ruin. So, and we've got what, 330 million people in America, so almost half. Half. And they're invisible.
The richest country in the world.
Yeah. Isn't that something? Yeah.
Anybody who hasn't seen it, the episode will be up, clipped. It was I found it really, really good.
Cheers, dude.
Hey, Lane, guess who we got on the show tonight?
Would that be Kelly?
She's coming here, yes. And I didn't have anything set up because it was last minute, and I'm grateful that she's going to be here. But we have the moose from Maine, Jim Earl.
Good.
His better half, Martha.
Oh, what's that picture from?
That is Martha. And this is Martha and hey, Moose, where's Squirrel? Right. And then later we have Professor Ann Lee.
Oh, genius.
Well, sorry. First we'll have Professor Ann Lee and Professor John.
These are brilliant, these.
He is.
Well,
and we'll have an update from Cameron and Charity on their walk. They're 20 kilometers away from their next destination. So we're going to talk to them in a little bit about how it's going. And for AMSR, we don't have DPA today, but we have Joe from Norway.
An incredible likeness.
That's true. That's very true. So well, let's bring in Kelly, if you're here, if we could spotlight her. Joe, are you mastering the controls today? Oh, I'll do it. It's fine.
Well, that's you.
I got it. Oh, and there's the lovely Kelly. How you doing, Kelly?
I had to unmute myself. I'm doing pretty great. How are you?
I see you changed your shirt. I hope you didn't do it for us.
I did. If I'm going to talk about the Poor People's Campaign, we won't be silent anymore.
Well, I think that's lovely.
Yep. And well, I won't. Yep. The back says 1 out of 4 people die out of poverty, essentially. So the way researchers have crunched the numbers.
I was reading about, because we got the environmentalists, which everybody should be a tree hugger, but I'm not afraid to cut one down either. So especially if there's bugs or in them, but air conditioning. So people were saying, well, don't use air conditioning because you're polluting the planet. At the same time, it's the down, the destitute in this heat wave right now who are the people dying because they don't have air conditioning.
Yes. Yeah, they are. There is real suffering going on in the humid heat, especially with the elderly. I work in a library, and we've got young families spending the heat of the day in the library, which I think is a great refuge from the horrible heat. But they shouldn't have to go seek out cool places like it was 1955.
Well, isn't this when we have heat waves, Lane, Scotland gets more people? Stakeholders?
Yes.
Give me ideas.
You never know. Well, I was up north and it was 22 Celsius. So what's that, about 80? Fahrenheit, and it was actually unusual, they said, and it's going up to 26, 27 Celsius, which would be in the close to 90, I believe, and highly unusual. So the weather is changing. It's affecting poor people. You have a clip you wanted to show us or talk about on. Can you set it up for us if you don't mind?
Yeah, I talked last week about the Nebraska delegation that went to the Poor People's Campaign Action Congress, where about 700 of us from, I think, over 30 states went to DC. We did a lot of training, a lot of learning about the politics within DC in preparation of talking to our representative, and then learning the facts. They brought in researchers that put together these studies that the Poor People's Campaign uses to argue the point that poverty is a policy choice, and it is a problem with solutions that are not unreasonable. And so it is doable. We can eliminate poverty. And so that's essentially it. The clip I would like to show is of, it's a local newscast of one of our Nebraska delegation that went there and talked about her personal experience. And it was quite moving. So if I can share screen.
You most certainly can.
Okay, great. Can you see that?
Oh, yes.
Excellent. Here I go.
Poor People's Campaign gathering on Capitol Hill.
Channel 8's Jessica Blum joins us with more on what's going on in Washington, D.C., including a voice from Nebraska. Jessica?
Yeah, hundreds of activists have been wanting to draw the attention of lawmakers toward poverty in America. Leaders of the campaign claim there is no scarcity of resources, but a scarcity of political will.
You won't be silent anymore.
A number of Nebraskans made a trip to Washington, D.C. with the Poor People's Campaign in order to draw attention to poverty in our state and across the country. According to the Nebraska chapter, poverty is the fourth leading cause of death in America, and over 642,000 Nebraskans are poor or low income, and over 2,000 are homeless.
This is uncalled for when this is supposed to be a country of opportunity, especially when I live in our nation's breadbasket.
One mother from Hastings, Nebraska, made an appearance in D.C. to share her story. While pregnant with her first child, she and her husband had to really cut back.
I often skip meals with my husband, or he would eat one day and I would eat the next. Once we had third snap in the third trimester, when they finally counted the baby as a person, we were able to eat at least once a day.
The Nebraska chapter also says poverty is a policy choice, and there is an answer. It isn't always because people are making poor choices and ending up this way. There are a lot of policy choices that go into the systemic poverty that we see. On Tuesday, the campaign said they were going to meet with the members of both the House and Senate to ask that they address their concerns. Here in Lincoln, Matt Talbot serves these people, whether that be with food, housing, or other forms of help.
Last month, we had a little over 19,000 instances of hunger relief services provided, and we provided 4,000.
Outreach services include mail, showers, laundry, hygiene kits, blankets, and food pantry boxes. And the outreach goes further than that.
It's really heartbreaking to see the amount of people that are struggling every day. And we here at Matt Talbot try to provide hope for them.
But even with assistance here and there, many find themselves crying for help.
This isn't the America I want for my children. We need change, and we need it now.
For faith leaders and those in poverty, including some back here at home, this event will continue in DC for the Poor People's Campaign through tomorrow. For more, look to our website, klkntv.com. Jeff.
Oh, thanks for sharing that, Kelly.
And just to give you a little background, that is one of our delegates off already, obviously Sierra, and I know a little bit more about her story. Like she said, she's on SNAP, and she had to deny a 50-cent an hour raise at her job. She does like preschool toddler daycare at a facility. And she had to say no to the raise because that would have put her over the earning limit for SNAP. And in order to get food assistance, SNAP, you have to be just almost destitute, really,
Wow.
really poor. And so, yeah, she and her husband would take turns eating one day to the next, and it did result in complications with her pregnancy and things like that. So it's been a really tough road for her.
So is this like all parties in Nebraska, they're for this, or do we have some people, I'm going to say Republicans, that are against, like they're not helping? Is it a Democratic drive for this, or is it people like you and the organization trying to force these politicians to do the right thing? That always seems the case.
Yes, there are, like you saw Pramila Jayapal, and there were quite a few other more progressive representatives there in front of the Supreme Court after our day of visiting our representatives during the rally where you saw Sierra speak. And so there is support, but on the other hand, the moneyed interests that pay the lobbyists, that fill the pockets, that it's my view that they are really what's directing policy. The significance also of that local news clip was told to us by Reverend Barber. He showed that clip and a few other state news that was covering other states that were covering the Poor People's Campaign Congress. And he said that the significance is finally somebody is discussing poverty in the news. This is new.
This poverty march too is not a new thing. It's been going on since the early 1900s, and especially with Reverend Luther King.
But
Reverend
I
Barber.
say they did not cover, the news really didn't cover our enormous march last year,
Right.
the 50th anniversary of the Poor People's Campaign.
Reverend Barber, it was nice to see him out and about. I see he's got a cane now. He's struggling with some health issues, is he?
Yeah, and he has for a long time. He's got back issues and autoimmune and things like that, but he is a fiery poetic spirit.
Oh, isn't he? Isn't he?
Yeah. And it's amazing to hear and learn from him because he is a historian too.
Right,
Yeah.
he is too, and he's a great orator, almost as good as our friend Lane here.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
I would like to, if you don't mind, show you a graph.
sure. Graphs are good. Graphs are fun with graphs, kids.
I'm gonna pull it up and then,
Right.
yeah, let me see. And then I'll share my screen once I have it. Okay. And this graph is from one of the studies that was done it's kind of like a think tank that's connected to the Poor People's Campaign. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is a number of deaths associated with cumulative and current poverty and the major causes, open circles, and risk factors. Well, essentially, maybe that's the wrong one. I'm sorry.
Oh, two graphs are better than one.
Okay,
You have it.
well, here, this is, okay, this one shows, if you count, heart disease is 1, cancer 2, smoking 3, cumulative poverty is 4. And so that is what's showing in this graph, that if you crunch the numbers the way nobody has before, that's what we'll get. And I will see if I can find that.
I think oh, okay.
No, I'm sorry, I pulled the wrong one, but it shows, it looks very much like that, but it shows the,
Well, we could see it, number
country.
4 is the poverty
right.
and
yeah,
dementia and obesity
Yeah,
and current
but
poverty.
yeah. Maybe I can show you the other one another time.
Sure, sure. I'd
Thank
like to set up a space of time to talk more about this.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sure.
So I appreciate
Yeah.
you coming on and giving us an update, and we'll need some more updates in the future, Kelly.
Okay, I'll keep you guys up to date. Thanks for your attention and your interest.
Wait, thank you for coming on and talking about this. I really appreciate. Actually, I wanted to ask you one more thing.
Okay.
Tent city. Do you guys have tent cities up in Nebraska?
We have collections of tents in certain places. I wouldn't call them cities. But yeah, there are, especially in the more concentrated parts of Omaha,
Right.
yes, definitely.
Is cheap drugs or fentanyl, is that an issue with some of the homeless up there too?
Yeah,
Like today,
fentanyl-
I seen some fellow tweaking on my way to the store. He was just, up on, and I'm thinking, oh, and he's so young.
Mm,
I had a discussion with a friend and he said, like when we were growing up, older people, there was some older people. Well, actually, there wasn't much homeless that we could tell anyways, but they were older, right? Now it's the young ones. It's like you've got your whole life ahead of you and now you're hooked on a pharmaceutical or drugs. You can't find a job as a result. They raid your tent where you were sleeping, and your ID and your medication goes. And
yeah,
so
it's
that's what I
horrible.
was wondering.
And what families in my social circle are experiencing is pot is laced with fentanyl very often anymore. And that is sending a lot of young people to the hospital. My dear friend's son had a mental break and he was hospitalized for a while. Another friend spent 3 weeks in a mental hospital because of this fentanyl they're smoking. That's kind of the consensus. I have no hard data, but they are finding fentanyl in commonly available, and pot's not legal here.
Okay.
So they're getting it on the street. It's not like they're going to a dispensary.
Yeah. I really don't understand the fentanyl craze. Is it just gives a kick to what you're like? They increased the THC in marijuana since I was a young man and made it more stronger, and now they're putting fentanyl into it,
Right.
which is for cancer patients.
Right. There was a few years ago, just a couple years ago in Lincoln, Nebraska, a police officer who was responsible for managing their evidence room,
Right.
got a hold of fentanyl through their evidence room and sold it. And it caused, I want to say 6 deaths, between 4 and 6 deaths,
Wow.
this fentanyl.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was prosecuted. But it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. It does not. No. Kelly, thanks for sharing that.
Okay.
We appreciate it. And we're going to talk about this again real soon. It's quite the issue. So thank you.
Thank you, Walter.
Take care.
Cheers,
I
Kelly.
think we should probably get the show started, eh?
Yeah.
Well, that's really something that's happening. It's not just Nebraska, but all over the world. Eh?
Oh, yes.
So,
I like the technique this week, Walter, by the way, like an 80s US TV program where you just jump into the story and then
you don't,
halfway through, then they do the credits. I like that.
you do you? Okay,
I
well,
do, yes.
well, we're,
S-
it's good conversation with low production costs, Lane. I mean, that's,
it exudes a sort of laissez-faire attitude to doing this, which
okay.
I admire in you, Walt.
Merci beaucoup. Joe from Norway.
I was going to say, I second Lane's thoughts on that. Do the intro after a little bit of a talk.
Yeah.
And I mean,
We might as well talk about this during the show instead of after, so.
no,
Once
I don't
again,
know,
Walter comes out with some sardonic wit.
Yeah.
all that talk of grinding poverty and starvation just leave me famished. I don't know about anybody else.
Well,
Oh, that's
Joe,
going to be a little hard to follow.
yes, it will. Joe, tell us what you're going to do today.
Yeah, so we had the bonfire last week, and I'm still feeling a little bit of the burn. So I thought I would make some baba ganoush with the eggplant I have here. I'll be making a Middle Eastern dish of charred eggplant. So I'm going to go out in the
You really don't
backyard.
like me, do you, Joe? I mean, you go with bitter gourd, then you go with a plate laced with cilantro, which I can't eat, and now you're with friggin' eggplant.
Wow,
My God, Joe, what is wrong with you?
what happened to your
Aubergine.
palate when you were growing up? Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Well,
go on.
Joe and
I'll-
Walter, would you agree with me that the word baba ganoush is one of the best food words ever?
Oh, it's a fantastic name.
Baba ganoush? It's marvelous.
Walter, you'll be happy to know that this is parsley instead of
Oh, not coriander leaf. Yeah, okay.
No.
Well, here,
and not
here's some
cilantro either.
right on. I'll let you know in on a secret. Coriander seed, I'm quite fond of. It's the leaf. The leaf drives me nuts.
And it does, so the coriander seed doesn't taste like soap to you.
No, you put it in pickling, pickle your cucumbers.
Yeah.
It's great.
Beg your
Great.
pardon.
Okay, so this is what you're going to
So-
cook.
So this is what I'm going to cook. It's really simple. We're going to go outside for I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, and I'm going to slowly roast these over the open flame. And then I'll whip up some tahina sauce with ground
Tahini.
sesame, tahini, with lime. I just had a lime. I don't have any lemon. And then we have garlic, salt, and sumac. This is a little
Sumac.
berry, typical, not the poison sumac that you might be familiar with.
What does sumac taste like, Joe?
It's hard to say. It has a tanginess like a citrus, so it's a very fruity. It gives a lot of vitamin C. That's the best way to describe it, and it leaves a nice reddish tint to things.
So what do you need from us, Joe, to help you make this?
Well, I need peace and quiet for myself. You guys keep going, and I'll get cooking.
Okay, it'll be a delight to see you.
Is there any substitution for sumac?
Well, you can use more lemon or cumin or whatever you want to garnish. It's mostly for the garnish. And you can use a combination of parsley and cilantro, or just parsley, or just cilantro, or parsley and mint, or just mint. You could also add at the end for garnish, you can, instead of, I guess, the sumac, you can use the seeds of a pomegranate. Those are nice. They give the red as well. So it's a nice contrast.
Excellent.
I'll put it on a plate and present it nicely when we're all finished.
Okay, we look forward to that.
All right.
Marvelous.
All right, so, and I'll come on in. Let's bring in Ann Lee if she's handy. Right, well, she is a very handy lady. And one of Did we not say we were going to have somebody able to pin guests and hosts? I'm just saying. Would be nice.
Well,
that would
be
take
efficient.
take production values. Hi, Ann. How are you? You're on mute, by the way.
Welcome back.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back, Walter.
Oh,
Hello.
thank you very much, Ann. Ann writes a column for the Daily Cost, KOS. I read it every night, and you should too. Just search Ukraine, and you'll find her column. And she writes other things too, and is quite the professor. Is what we've heard. And thank you very much for coming on here. Appreciate it, Ann.
Thanks, Walter. It's been a busy week. A lot of things happening.
Right.
A lot of things happened today in the Supreme Court in the U.S., but it's been very busy. Riots in France, and the war continues.
Yes, it does. So can we just so that's what I wanted to start with. Do you guys do you watch TV, Lane?
Well, I watch things on demand as opposed to live TV, but I've got I'm on got my finger on the thumb.
Okay, did you watch this last episode of The Russians?
On BBC?
No, in real life.
Oh, right.
They had some tanks going to Moscow. I mean, the Russians always disappoint me, right?
Yeah.
They had two columns, one and Ann will talk about this, one in Belgorod battalion, and then one went to Moscow. That's how they got there so fast. They had two. And this man here, Rogozin, or this is him in his battlefield armor.
That's very good. Doctor Who.
This is him as a waiter.
Yeah.
No.
So a hot dog vendor, right? Putin's restaurateur to the stars. And they disappoint me all the time. You're getting to a spot in the Russians, that episode where, it looks like things are going to break loose, right? Tanks.
It was like the Grand Old Duke of York, wasn't it?
Right. Tanks going into Moscow. Oh my gosh. All the millionaires leaving Moscow, Putin leaving Moscow.
Yeah.
His deputy premier leaving Moscow. And
when he was up, he was up. When he was down, he was down. And when
what
he was
did they do?
he was neither up or down.
Yeah. And what did they do? They turn around and they come back and said, okay, just kidding. And this one, Margaret from RT Television, she's been on a rampage about it lately. And
are you sure we've got copyright fair usage with these clips from the BBC here?
Again, we can talk about this after the show.
It's best to act first, then deal with the repercussions, isn't it? Well,
there you go. Well, we don't want to lose our rights. But Anne, are we going to talk about that? Is that what we're going to talk about, my dear?
We can talk about that among other things.
Among other things, yes, please.
It took up most of the week. The potential of a coup. Since nobody in the international community was freaking out about it, it did seem like it wasn't as important as it might have been. So it's actually quite interesting. So you have a clip you wanted to show?
I did, but I only had half an hour to prepare, and I didn't prepare that. So,
it's okay. Let's we can review. This is
yes, please. A little review, and then I'd like to talk about what's happening now.
Okay,
over it, if you don't mind. Just
since we last were on the air, there was a general progression of withdrawal that has been going on for about a month or so of Wagner forces from the front lines in I think in Luhansk primarily, and some from Donetsk, and they've been replaced by Russian forces. Now, the issue, of course, was a variety of complex elements that have a lot of disinformation. And Prigozhin seems that because he does have his own kind of PR apparatus, information apparatus, he was dominating the discourse by saying that, well, these guys in the Ministry of Defense are doing a shitty job, and you know, we're taking the hard end of it. Now, essentially, what Prigozhin was doing is trying to shift the blame from the poor performance of the Wagner forces in Luhansk, in the northern part of the eastern element of the operational area. And the fact is, the Ukrainians pushed them back in the summer and kept pushing them back, and are still contesting the Russians around Bakhmut. Now, the point, of course, is that Prigozhin, the caterer, wanted to smooth out whatever, you know, he was trying to explain away the fact that Wagner forces, while being sort of well prepared in a decent fighting force, but with a significant number of, for example, convict conscripts, and it was a retreat, and he's been trying to sort of explain away the retreat. Now, the one way he did it was to reach a kind of frustration point where there may have been, the current state of it is that there may have been not so much a coup attempt, but an attempt to displace the Putin's regular head of the Ministry of Defense and the field commander in Ukraine. The problem, of course, is that these guys are very loyal to Putin and were probably not able to be displaced. But you roll the dice and, you know, you take your chances. And what Prigozhin did with his press coverage was essentially proclaim that he was doing a major protest, took a fairly large component of his Wagner forces and marched, or whatever, proceeded on to Rostov-on-Don, which is the headquarters for the Southern Military District, one of the, whatever it is, the 6 military districts. And essentially, and one hates to say that it's bloodless, there were a couple of casualties and fatalities. Regular Russian air forces, mainly helicopters, were either keeping an eye on or resisting slightly. And about 11 Russians of pilots of various aircraft have been shot down during this entire operation. So it takes about an 8,000 to maybe 10,000 Wagner force, treks back in about 50 kilometers to Rostov-on-Don, you know, way behind the lines, essentially seizes the city. And there's a lot of coverage of this on social media. And then he decides to make a much larger march towards Moscow, proclaiming that he's on a march for justice. And the interesting thing is that I think that he really hoped that he would get some Russian forces, some Russian units to join him in this march on Moscow that was interpreted by many people as a coup attempt. The point was, of course, once it's about, 100 or 200 kilometers, and he gets up to about 124 kilometers from Moscow, and no units. Now, the thing is, the Ministry of Defense Russian troops, the regular Russian troops, and just stood by. They decided they weren't going to engage, other than these couple of air battles or attempts to strike the Wagner ground troops, which the Wagner forces have conventional, the state-of-the-art Russian air defense. So they essentially were shooting down their own assets. So as I said, there not too many people have died in this little, whatever this adventure was. And Prigozhin, as I said, gets up to about 120 some odd kilometers away from Moscow. there were troops mobilized, but it never came to a confrontation. Belarus President Lukashenko decided to get in on the action, flying to do a kind of, one can say maybe diplomacy, but on the other hand, he may have perhaps been trying to leverage the coup. But it's unclear to figure out what roles were involved. The front end information was that essentially, as was predicted probably a month or so ago, is that Prigozhin is withdrawing the Wagner troops. They're being the troops have been given the option to demobilize, to be either incorporated into the regular Russian army, to go home, or to go to Belarus. That's their three options at the present moment. And in parallel, Lukashenko in Belarus has set aside some space, and there is satellite information that tells us that they have a small base that is being converted for Wagner in Belarus. Now, the question of whether this is going to be a mercenary force in service of Lukashenko is a whole nother question, and none of this is very clear. And the other thing that is percolating in the background is the presence of Russian nuclear weapons in Belarus and who's in charge in that context. So it's just very interesting to see these things at work. The mainstream press has said that Putin has been weakened by this, and weakened enough so that Putin has had a live broadcast making speeches. His initial speech was one of resistance and complaining about mutineers and bringing up 1917 and getting stabbed in the back and blah, blah, blah. And that has all been moderated slightly. He did give out medals posthumously to all those who got shot down. And he showed up somewhere, I can't remember where he showed up, but he went to a sort of an intermediate location where there weren't going to be any protests of his presence, and he actually pressed the flush with some probably pre-selected civilians. He normally doesn't go anywhere and doesn't have people very close to him at all, but he went in and did the sort of kissing baby deal. So that's kind of where we are now. Nobody knows what's going on. There's a kind of weird aerial chess game going on with several of the of Prigozhin's private jets have been taking off and landing in various places, and it's kind of, some people, there's a lot of disinformation. We don't know whether Prigozhin is holed up somewhere in Belarus or somewhere else, and there's a very large negotiation going on with because Wagner has a lot of little recruitment outlets all over Russia. So I would say about 50 of them scattered about the country. So there's a lot of assets there. On the other hand, because they were essentially borrowing the regular Russian weapons, the heavy weapons, missiles and all that stuff, artillery, those have been given back or released to the Russian Ministry of Defense. So the Russians still have all their guns, all of Wagner's guns. They just don't have the personnel. And whether this places a greater emphasis on the next wave, which I think is coming in September, of conscription mobilization, we sort of need to, work through that. But needless to say, the larger picture was, I think everyone wanted to, was hoping, something horrible would happen. Nothing horrible has happened yet. Prigozhin hasn't been pushed out a window or blown up or something. Most people are trying to do the interpretive thing and saying that Putin was weakened by this activity, and that there probably is going to be a purge of some kind. There was no purge in the higher ups at the Russian Ministry of Defense, but there has been some reorganization down at the battalion level, because I think some commanders got a little weak-kneed. Okay.
Right.
Sorry to you ramble on there, but
No,
that's
no,
kind of
no.
where we are now.
You're clear. It's like the last season of Game of Thrones. You expect something grand and you're
Yep.
disappointed.
Yep, exactly.
And Lee, is it right one of the Russian military leaders has gone missing?
Yes,
he been
Savokin,
Sorokin.
he was the original leader of the entire military at the beginning of the invasion. If you want to blame anyone for the screw ups on the initial advance on Kyiv, he's the guy. He's the guy you blame, and that's why he got pulled off of the of command. And some say, and this is disinformation at work, that he may have been a coup plotter.
He's friends with Prigozhin, really quite
That's right.
close, right? And isn't the CIA also making this publicity to try to keep the Russians
Yes.
okay on their toes?
A lot of it is agitation. There's a lot of side stuff going on that you have to sort of wade through.
Right.
The fact is, Prigozhin went to Rostov-on-Don and no shots were fired.
Right. But however, he so from what I was reading, and you could clarify this, and I read Ann Lee from the Daily Cost, is I had said Belgorod earlier, I meant Rostov-on-Don. They went in there, they got the police stations, the military barracks, they took all the weapons, they had all that locked down, but they had the people support as well. Quite a few of them, right? And the checkpoints, security guards, they didn't stop them. They just said, carry on, let's go clean it up pretty well, right? I think the people are ready for a change out there, right?
Oh, well, I think so. But as I've said, they seized most of the major assets in Rostov-on-Don. They seized the air base. They
have nuclear arms there too, but
yeah, and yet everyone stepped aside. So it's kind of interesting to see that no one resisted, but no one joined. So it was kind of a very interesting little couple of days.
So is it your premise that because he didn't get joined by even the oligarchs or the other military personnel to join his crusade is why he turned back? Or was he just like, did they just have a big drunken vodka fest and said, you know what we should do? We should march on Moscow. Hey, that's a good idea. Let's go, boys. That's the Russian way of doing it,
Oh, yeah, indeed. And it could be that was going on. It certainly is clear that there are some specific parties engaged in this, but I think some Prigozhin himself has made a lot of enemies with the Russians, because there were several events where commanders were kidnapped and and they were firing on each other. There was I think a missile attack on the Wagner forces at the beginning of this, and so I think Prigozhin took that one attack to launch this little march to Moscow.
Right. You had a question?
Speaking of charred remains, may I interject?
Yes. Yeah, might as well.
Just a little update on our poor eggplants. They've been roasting for some time now on the over the open flame. And one thing you'll notice is it gets discolored halfway through. And that's a good time to flip it before. You don't want to break the skin, because what we're trying to do is steam the heat generated from the flame will create a steam inside the eggplant, and that's what's going to cook everything. And we just want to get a little char on the outside, so we get some smoky flavor to it. So we're almost done roasting the eggplant, and I'm starting to make the tahini sauce to go with it, to mix in with it afterwards.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Just to rewind the clock there, and Lukashenko, there was some reports that he wasn't the guy that really did the deal. It was a deputy governor of another I don't know what it is, province, county.
It's an oblast, I think.
Oblast. That set the deal up, and they gave Lukashenko credit for it. What do you think of that?
I think that's certainly possible. Lukashenko is not exactly, well, I don't think he's fully in charge, and he's clearly got a lot of problems that relate
Right.
primarily to the fact that the Belarusians, their own army, is, I would assume, kind of divided in its support of Lukashenko, considering that he stole the last election, and there is a considerable resistance that exists politically. And it's relatively problematic. That is, in terms of, I think the nuclear weapons are only in one place in Belarus, so they're not fully dispersed in that sense. And the more recent stuff has been discussions about nuclear weapons again, but we always have that discussion about nuclear weapons when these things happen. And I think it's far too noisy on the one hand. On the other hand, when you actually see that there are actual maps of which, on the NATO side, our nuclear weapons are in 6 locations essentially across Europe. And you know, these are things that we know. The current little side piece of disinformation was that has been released only today, was that Prigozhin may have, and there's not enough evidence for this, that he was going to go for the closest nuclear storage facility, which is sort of on the way to Moscow. It's actually east, I think.
Really?
But it's a huge nuclear storage place, a weapons storage place, and there's not enough evidence to say that's what he was trying to seize. And I think he wouldn't. I don't think he could have seized it with the troops that he had. He needed to have like huge units. The entire southern military district would have had to go to his side, and they didn't. So you know.
Yeah, so he didn't have any support. And let's not kid ourselves. Prigozhin's not a good guy.
Oh no. I mean, hammers killing people with hammers is
sledgehammers,
crazy.
Yeah, him and Peter Gabriel.
Yeah, indeed. Well, and you know, the Chechens were sort of on the side of Prigozhin at the beginning, but then they faded into the background like they usually do, and you know, they're nowhere to be seen at the present moment.
Can we talk about Putin's appearances? Some said that some of those appearances were videotaped a month ago or something like that, or months ago.
Could be, I suppose.
But his talk at the time, bringing it to 1917, he did not look good in that talk, right? He was shaken.
Oh, it was in the first, you know, it was only at that moment where I think it was late in the evening, and Prigozhin was still only about 3 hours away in terms of going down the freeway, the highway at him. Yeah, but you know, it was hastily put together, I would assert. I mean, he needed to show that he was in charge, and a lot of interpreters are saying no.
He waited a long time though before coming on.
Well, yeah, I think he was trying to figure out who's on my side. Relative to military units, particularly since they didn't attack Prigozhin, and they just sort of stepped aside and let him move forward. Which is pretty interesting.
Well, and also, okay, so basically, out of all this, Prigozhin gets what? He gets time served in Belarus. All the people involved get to join the Russian army or go to Belarus and join Prigozhin. He still has his African concerns.
Yes.
Where he has camps. His assets are currently being taken away by other oligarchs, by Putin, apparently.
There's state activity. Initially, they had called for his arrest, and apparently he still is technically supposed to be prosecuted, which is, you know, and that's kind of vague as well. So we're still, quote unquote, negotiating and those kinds of things.
They're still running commercials for recruitment for Wagner in Russia.
Yep. Well, and I think they can entice Wagner recruits because likely there's all these things where Wagner is operating in Africa, you know, where they're taking people's gold, and they're doing a lot of, you know, imperialist or colonialist things.
Yeah, for apparently for Russia, right? It's,
Well, for Russia, but I think it fills their own pockets. The whole financial element of how Wagner supports itself is kind of at risk right now.
right. So who does, this is my question to you, Ann, who does insurrection better? America or Russia?
It's 6-5 and pick 'em. You know,
There was no
USA.
there was
It
no
was-
Viking guys in the Russian battalion, though. That's the problem.
yeah, probably you didn't have a guy, no shamans, not enough shamans.
Not enough shamans. Yeah.
I think he got caught between a rock and a hard place. In other words,
Right.
they launched a heavy duty missile attack. He decided, well, we better get going, and then let's see if we can get everyone together to try and take on Putin and Moscow. And everyone blinked.
Yeah.
That there's not one rogue Russian unit that joined him. So that has to say something. I don't know what, but you know, it's pretty clear
Right.
and nobody outside of Russia blinked. I mean, you know, this
Right.
is
No. My eyes were wide open watching.
yeah, you know, you could sort of see this moving along, but there wasn't a lot. And of course, everyone said, well, crazy shit is happening. Let's all stay inside.
Right.
What was his aim to actually get other disparate groups to join him or not? Because seemingly, to me, it just seemed like a retaliation to say, don't fuck with us, because he just bombed. Was it 30 odd Wagner troops?
Yeah.
Putin. So that's what it was. It was a direct response, which I think the press built up as an insurrection. I think he was just trying to send a message.
Yes,
Like,
I think it was about negotiating, and he didn't have a lot to play with because there were no regular Russian forces who joined him. It had you had a one insurrection in one military district probably could have done it, but not, as I said, he went to the head of the Southern Military District, which is prosecuting a lot of this war, and none of them joined him. They just, put their hands up and surrendered. They didn't say, oh, thank you for coming. Let's join together and go to Moscow. That didn't happen.
Okay, let's take a question.
It was interesting to see. And although this isn't really representative so much, it's just what we showed on TV. But it was interesting to see when the violent group were retreating, that they actually were being cheered by the people on the streets, and that was a bit, yeah. How much of that? It's not necessarily representative of everybody there, but it's just
Let's take a question from Bruce. Okay, Bruce, you got a question? Go on.
Want some food questions?
Yes, hi, Professor Ann. It seems like the media focuses on Prigozhin trying to overthrow Putin, but I think he had another motive, and that was to get rid of Soji and the other guy and become the supreme military leader. And I wonder where you come down on that. Was he trying to get rid of Putin, or did he just want to take control of the military?
Oh, well, no, that was his pretext. I mean, he never said that he wanted to get rid of Putin. His whole public thing was that I want to, get a change in all of the military leadership and force Putin to change out the leadership. And none of that has happened yet. I mean, it could happen, but I think Putin prefers all the Shoju and what's his name, the Gerasimov, the
Gerasimov and Shogu, yeah.
Yeah, but they're still where they are. So this is not, nothing has happened. And more likely, as I would say, as I said, it wasn't really an attack on Putin, but obviously Putin took it as an attack on his authoritarian rule. And so, there's kind of a sell-by date for Prigozhin. I think at some moment there's going to be an accident.
Yeah. Well, there was another a bank VP, beautiful woman who got thrown out a window too, as well.
Yeah.
So the hits just keep coming. Our friend of the show, Constantine from Inside Russia, thinks that Prigozhin kept going because he wasn't stopped. He thought there would be a big mass army just to stop him, and he was just going to say, okay, I was just fooling. What is his take on it? So just a thought.
Well, I think everyone was still sitting in their bases. Oh no, there was some movement in the Central Military District, but that's pretty much it.
Right. And
I mean,
and look, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's foolhardy to take only 10,000 some odd troops and try and take all of Moscow. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a little bit on the crazy side.
That's right. But he almost showed what if he was in charge of taking Kiev, what might have happened, right? Was another thing he
Well,
said.
Yeah, there's a lot of bluster there, and he's trying the other side of the disinformation was, and it was reasonable to talk about it. That is that this is simply moving all the Wagner forces to Belarus so they can attack Kyiv.
Right.
Most of the analysis says they're just not ready to do it, and they can't do it. And this is the same as the problem of, well, there's nuclear weapons base there. Well, yes and no. It's just, I don't think there's going to be any attack on Kyiv from Belarus unless there's a bigger influx of Russian troops.
Right. Thanks, Ann. I think we better look at Joe because Joe looks like he killed the eggplant.
Speaking
Looks like a blowfish or
speaking of burning flesh, this is what we're looking for when we roast the eggplant. It's all, I don't know if you can tell, it's completely juicy, cooked all the way through. You can see the ligaments, tendons going down here. We have.
It's not helping, Joe. It's not helping.
You evil,
on the outside, we have a little bit of brown. You can see I'm scraping off the skin now. I'll take out the flesh and chop it up and mix it in with the farina.
What did that aubergine ever do to you, Joe?
I'm wondering why your kids getting fed this food aren't meat eaters now. I mean, I would have said. So, are you still with us, Ann?
Oh, yes, I am. Sorry to disappear.
Oh, no, you can disappear, but you take your time going, but hurry back.
Yeah, indeed. No, I know hopefully we have some folks coming in at the bottom of the hour, and
Yes.
Looking forward to seeing them.
Right. You had something else to talk about too?
It's just a lot of things have happened. Apparently, the Supreme Court of the United States decided that they would sort of split the difference in some ways, not approving the independent state legislature theory, which had they supported this very wacky theory, the United States, the democracy of the United States would have been in peril in 2024. Fortunately, they didn't, because there's some sanity there. On the other hand, they supported a theoretical idea that potentially, people who discrimination laws threaten my religious freedom. I have no idea how that works, but they managed to take a Colorado case and turn it into some kind of sort of a preemptive justice. There's no real threat, but this one person feels threatened, so we should protect this one hypothetical person from their from these evil LGBTQIA folks.
Right. So does this also go with the Supreme Court's decision on college eligibility, where you can't? There's a name for it, Ann. You're more prime to tell me. You know,
affirmative action.
There you go. Thank you.
Little
help from the audience. Excuse me.
It's a very complex. It's a much more complex issue, and has too many moving parts in some ways to actually be in support of the Biden initiative. It actually should have been worked through a little bit more, but I think that with respect, the Biden administration has always been kind of tentative about this. On the one hand, saying, we want to, wipe out college debt, but in some ways not putting in all the financial elements in order to make this happen. And it's whatever, I'm not in charge. But it seems clear that other things must happen. Legislative solutions plus some well-designed executive action, but it's
So you're talking.
I hate to.
Did we jump into? Sorry, did we just jump into paying college debt? Is part of this whole thing?
Hasn't happened yet, and
right. So it's a win for Biden, right? The Supreme Court gave Biden the win. Oh
no! What the Supreme Court did was, essentially shift the blame so that you don't have to blame Biden. You can blame Republicans in the court, and that's good. I mean, good for 2024. I'm sorry to say that that's kind of how American government works, but that's kind of what we do. It allows people to vote both for and against things at the same time, and it's very unfortunate.
Did you have that on your bingo card that Biden wouldn't get debt relief this year?
I would have won. Yeah, that would have been on my bingo card. I think that there are ways to solve it. It simply requires much more control of the legislature, which I'm hopeful that will happen in 2024.
Well,
go ahead.
Sorry, I apologize.
No.
When Anne's on a roll, don't get in the way.
Yammering. Yeah.
2024. So it's the election. So how can you run? Is he going to run on that then? Because if he,
I think he can still run on it.
Okay.
Because it's the Supreme
Court. He ran
on
it last time.
Well, he can still run on it because
sure, that's what Democrats do. They get in the office, don't fix it, and run on it again.
The fortunate thing is that you don't blame Biden for it. You can now blame SCOTUS for it.
Okay.
It's and I think the good thing is that it's not totally in the front. I think by the time it comes into the campaign, we'll have seen a lot of other things take precedence. That is the DOJ investigations, all the insaneness of classified documents and all that other stuff. That will come ahead of that.
Wow.
It's very exciting, though. It's incredibly exciting because now, some people, we're getting a little closer to what some people might call a conspiracy theory, but it is, I think, the most incredible thing where the GOP put together slates of fake electors to essentially try and push Trump over the finish line,
right?
Illegally. So,
and I hate to go back to Prigozhin, but he did run a troll farm.
Indeed.
And he had people out on Facebook and Reddit and stuff like that in 2016. So that part of the story is true, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's
he was trying to influence the election.
Oh, absolutely. I think that that story still needs to be told in detail, but it there's just a lot of stuff there already.
Right.
And things that will come out once we begin to see the things that weren't covered by the Mueller investigation. And, I think if we can get past the next, Democratic threat, that is the threat to democracy by Trump, I think we'll be able to see in retrospective of investigation how deep all of these things go.
Wow. And thank you so much. And everybody read Anne in the Daily Cost, KOS.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful read, and I read it before I go to sleep at night because she posts late.
I post early in the sense that the number of the day is the beginning of the new day, and I try and I'm trying to capture, I hope, what is a more European morning audience that with the kind of latest news and some of the maps that have come along with this. Like tonight, there are some fairly detailed maps about the new offensive on the southern on the Zaporizhzhia.
Before we
Oblast.
break, can you tell us a little bit about that? Are Ukrainians making progress?
They're making some progress. I think the assault is in about four different sectors. The problem, of course, in the current issue is the same issue that it's been for a couple of weeks, and that is that the Russians could blow up. They have
Yes.
the Zaporizhzhia power plant, and that causes an incredible amount of chaos, much like the dam that they brought down.
Well, story today has it that the Russians are slowly leaving the area in Zaporizhzhia.
Well, they're evacuating because in preparation to blow it up, in other words, they took all of the workers and technicians out of it. They've cleared civilians from the area. So that's cause to worry on the one hand, but they could do it in a single swipe. They're still playing with this thing. Now, whether it's a good or a bad thing, it's moderately close to where the Ukrainians have actually started to make an entry into the southern border. They're advancing into areas that, and in one very small area in Donetsk, they've actually taken back an area that they had lost since 2014. So they're still gaining territory.
Right.
The Ukrainians have not lost territory yet. So this is all a good thing.
Right, and their big offensive brigades that they've been training to are still held back for now, right?
Oh yeah, there is an incredible amount of stuff being collected, and if they can actually create a breakthrough, they're not going to use all 8 or 9 brigades at once. I'm sure there'll probably be several lines of entry, and it'll be an interesting problem. Also, the air support will be much better.
Right. So I would say on the next episode of the Russians, we have a double fake where Steven Seagal and Scott Ritter rush into the nuclear power plant and disarm all the bombs. And I mean, I could write that show. That's right.
Yeah.
Just a thought. And Joe's making pizza. Oh, sorry, pita bread. Joe, this is your chance.
Scott Ritter is on television now.
Telegram, anyways. So what are you doing here, Joe? And we're going to go to
just slicing up some pita, and we're finished.
Wow.
It's,
Lovely.
hola.
Oh, there you go.
Baba ganousj.
Baba
Marvelous.
ganoush. Right. Try
That's
some
that's
today.
great, Joe.
Yeah. Live, eat, and pray. Well, thank you, Joe.
If you like it thicker, just don't mix you can mix the tahina directly in with the eggplant. And you don't even have to use tahina if you don't have tahini paste. You can just use eggplant. You can substitute mayonnaise. You can substitute yogurt or just plain. Chop
Okay.
up some tomatoes, maybe.
Well, yeah, I would put that onto the pita and then scrape it off and put a tomato on it. That would be me, though.
It's
So,
tasty. And when you do it on the flame like that, you gotta make sure you don't get too much of the char, but
Right.
it gives a nice smoky flavor to the eggplant.
Joe, thank you so much for your creative endeavors.
My
And
pleasure.
One day we'll hit a dish that I really like.
What kind of, well, I've got this wonderful wok burner out here.
You're an
restaurant
American. You like
grade.
to burn things, don't you? Got to barbecue everything.
Well, maybe next week we can do some stir fry for you.
You
I
got it.
demand something's flesh.
No, that's fine. Joe, thank you. And thank you so much for the update on Ukraine, and Professor John's involved. So, but I guess we're going to go to the stars. our big stars is, oh, and don't forget to read Anne Lee in the Daily Cost.
Really
right?
cost. And I'm
So,
assuming the link in the beneath the thing,
yeah, we're gonna have to, yeah.
beneath
No.
the thing, link. Yes.
Yes, it'll be there. Oh, actually, I should tell the audience too that we have links for Discord and for our newsletter to get onto the Zoom. And if you have questions with some of our guests, that would be wonderful if you want to join us. Plus, we have gardening on Sundays, we have carpentry, and we have Twilight Zone. And maybe John will be back and we can ask him what he's going to show tonight. And Joe, thank you very much. I kid, but it's wonderful cooking and it's all been all vegetarian. So thank you very much, my friend. Okay.
My pleasure. And it'll continue to be.
Wow.
No animal products for the
No,
YouTube.
no. I was merely jesting. I was jesting. Joe.
Okay. Well, let us bring on.
Relax, John.
I have a
Everything's
question
in
for
order.
Joe. Joe, you said
Hey,
mayonnaise.
no, hey, buddy, where's your hand? Where's your hand?
Buddy.
Show me your hand, buddy. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Nancy.
Thank you. Joe.
Yep.
You said mayonnaise.
Yes, mayonnaise.
You bake the eggplant and mix it with mayonnaise?
You can do if you like. That's
Have you done that?
one.
Mayonnaise?
I think it's an affront to nature, but an ex-mother-in-law of mine found it very wonderful.
I'm from the Midwest. I mean, I live on mayonnaise.
Okay. Yeah, no, give it a shot. It's very good. I prefer it plain. I prefer the bitterness of the sesame.
You can put that stuff on anything.
I didn't know mayonnaise was necessarily a Midwest thing, Dr. Nancy.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
There was, I'll never forget, there's a series about a New York young doctor who went to Alaska and went back to visit Michigan, Detroit, and he walked through this family event. I almost cried because it reminded me of home, but he looked around and he said, I'd never seen so much mayonnaise in all my life. And I laughed for an hour. Because it's true. We mix mayonnaise with everything.
You got her. So let us go. Thank you, guys. Let's get back to our show.
Okay.
Thanks for the interlude. So we have Jim Earl and Martha. And Martha doesn't have any video right now, but soon will. So hi, Jim.
Hi, I love Baba Ganoush.
Oh, dude.
And I
the soundtrack or the food?
I would love, and I'd like to slather it all over my torso. And that's me.
Would you use Dr. Nancy's mayonnaise?
I would never. I haven't had mayonnaise since I used to eat tuna fish and mayonnaise sandwiches every day at school when I was little. So I developed type 1 diabetes.
Oh. I had a young lady.
Screw that.
Yeah, I had a young lady who asked me if I've ever tried tuna, and I said, "Yeah, I grew up poor." And but now to buy it, I mean, tuna is just shot up in price.
Nice, dude.
So for you, Jim, this is your icon.
Bullwinkle.
That's you, because the moose, right?
Yeah, moose.
Yeah, and Martha's.
Oh.
Here's Jim and Martha.
Oh, thanks.
Aw.
You're welcome.
That's nice.
From now on, you're going to be represented with that. Okay, I hope you don't mind.
No.
Martha, is there no video for you today, or we're not
Oh
going to?
no, I have video. But it's not Martha. It is this lady here.
Oh, we have the first lady.
Yes.
Hillary?
Yes.
Hillary, is that you? Oh.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Happy Independence Day. If you are in America, Independence, like toenail, is every day is Independence Day.
We appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Jim, are you going to have a little talk with Melania now, or?
Well, I don't know what she's going to say. What are you here for, Melania?
Well, hello, everybody. It is I, Melania, future First Lady in the United Confederate States of America, a Tandy company. How are everyone tonight doing?
Marvelous.
Anyone?
Fantastic.
I'm okay.
Okay, I really do not care. Do you?
Oh.
That's not.
I'm
good.
here because I wish to make a renouncement regarding sending my thoughts and Tonel's prayers to the victims of the castratonic submarine exfoliation 400 miles off the coast of New Massachusetts. Did I say that word right?
Yeah.
Coast? Anyways, this is terrible tragedy that hopefully will not usher in a bunch of new safety regulations that will cause uncertainty in the imploding stupid-ass billionaire submarine industries.
Okay.
Now is not the time for blame or reflection or investigating or asking questions or trying to figure out how to not have it happen again. This is the time for vacuuming up human flesh marmalade into Tupperware cups for the refrigeration and later cult worshipping.
Oh, so you're talking about the Seagate thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Go
This
ahead.
terrific devastation reminds Melania of Melania's short submarine boat films. Perhaps you know of them. Voyage to the bottom of my bottom. Das Booty.
Oh, okay.
The Enema Below. Destination Poke Me Hole.
Oh, that was a classic.
Sports World. With Kevin Costner. No? Come silent, come deep. That's come, spelled C-U-M.
Yeah, we get it. Yeah.
Masturbator and commander.
Mm.
The wreck of the Andrea Horia. No? Anybody? No?
Yeah, yeah, we heard
Okay.
it. Yeah, it was pretty good. That's a good title.
K9, the widow doggy fucker maker.
Hey, that's a little hard to figure out.
Captain C. Phillips.
Captain what?
Captain C. Phillips.
Ah,
The old man and the pea.
oh.
The spy who loved pea. I station Pibra. The return of Captain Pimo.
Captain
of
P.
course,
Captain Pimo?
Yeah, Captain Pimo.
Oh,
Titanic.
what Titanic?
Titanic.
Oh,
Now I show you my teeth.
oh, okay, yes.
And of course, its acclaimed sequel, Titantric.
Those were all very good films. I unfortunately I didn't see many of them.
Anyways, this is such a terrible time for stupid rich pedophiles. Peoples. What with smart people making fun of implosioned, uncircumcised metal penis tubes full of billionaire puree and fear pee. Did you understand?
That was a complicated one.
Well, I repeat it again for you in the back.
Sure.
This is such a terrible time for stupid rich peoples with smart people making fun of implosioned, uncircumcised metal penis tubes full of billionaire puree and fear pee. You understand now?
Yes.
Fear pee. Tonald and I are sending our very best boxes to the remains of the family's remains, Whoever installed that screen door should be fired. Put weather stripping around it, okay? Seriously, they should ask for a refund. I hope they save their receipts. And all of you dumb experts hystericizing about the climactic change when in fact everything is getting greener because of so much rain, like greener oceans full of algae and floating dead fish. And what water shortage are you pinhead stupid science worshippers talking about already? There's flooding everywhere, okay? Just bottle it up and sell it back to those Fiji water fuckers and their stupid little island with their square bottles already. Who wants to drink square water anyway? Does it come out of your Riatra square like poop of marsupial wombats? I should say not. What a fucking ripoff. Do not talk to me of wombats, okay? Such bullshits. But in the end, Tonel and I are confident that we can exhaust the rest of you by making it impossible to disabuse us in the patent bullshit we've become attached to.
Well, for a transcript of this proceeding,
Dankeschön.
send 25 cents to Merkel Press, Chicago 60109.
Dankeschön and Heil Hitlers. And remember, don't get sick. It is waste of time. Happy Independence Day.
Well, thank you very much, Melania, First Lady,
Thank you. Thank
possible future First Lady.
Future First Lady. I'm not porn hooker.
No.
Ask my pimp.
Thank you, Melania.
Thank you, Vali.
Wally?
Vali.
Wally. Or Volodka is the Russian.
Volodka.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Melania. And Jim and Martha, or Jim and Melania, it's really good to see you guys. We've been away for a couple of weeks, and
yeah, what happened? What
I went north, young man. I went north. Hey, thank you for asking. You're the only one who's asked me, where did you go? Everybody else didn't care. Oh, you're back. Okay. You want to host tonight? I said, yeah, okay.
How could you possibly go further north?
I tell you, I was a couple of hours away by road to Dawson City, and we were really close to Alaska. And the US military had this big Air Force thing going on. So all the planes were delayed. And because Americans have right of airspace in Canada, I guess. I don't know. And yeah, so thank you very much for being bullies that you are. I appreciate it.
Did you see any bears?
No, I seen a moose, and I thought of you guys. Seen him.
Where were you? Dawson City?
No, I was up in Mayo and Whitehorse.
Whitehorse.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Wow. I spent a week in Whitehorse once.
What were you doing up there?
You're the reason. Oh, I've decided to take a job up north, so I'm going to go every couple of weeks. My bathtub of money is empty, so I'm going to try to fill it up as best I can. And if not, I can't afford to live in a van down by the river. You know how much vans are, so we'll just keep working.
Do you mind if we ask?
Yes, I do.
What you're going to be doing?
No, I don't mind you asking. I don't have to answer.
What are you going to be doing?
I signed an NDA. I can't tell you.
Are you getting paid to sign an NDA?
Yes, that's right.
You know, I signed an NDA every job I had, and completely meaningless.
That's true. And this one is too, because they're not enforceable. So you should come with me on my next trip.
Sure.
You should. Yeah, just sign an NDA and we'll bring you up. Martha, can you release them for 2 weeks?
Hey, we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we. Bienvenue. Welcome. The Canadians rubbing off on here is Quebecois French. So are you guys getting attacked by the smoke monster out of Canada? Not yet?
No.
Not
Good
really.
Well, let me tell you, the weather up in Whitehorse was, I mean, the atmosphere was, it was a #1 on the scale. It was just beautiful, good air conditioning and everything. Good for your lungs and stuff is what in the environment.
Right.
But the trees are long and spindly because of the sun. And air quality 58. So that's just
So
over half, or is
that's
that?
that's a moderate, so it's not ideal.
Well, we're
It's-
a #4 here, so we must be on metric here for air quality. We're out of 1 to 10 and
Yeah.
you're out of 100, I think. So 58 is moderate, right?
Yeah, it's usually around 20, 25 here.
Right.
But
Well, and I know everybody's blaming Canada for all the fires going on. However, they did find a guy out, there's a small city about 10 miles east of me. They found a person who was lighting fires out in the bush. He lit about 4 or 5 fires. And, well, sorry, they didn't catch him, but they know he did it. So.
Was he on the run?
It was, I don't know. Why are people stupid? I mean, they want to see something. It's like drive your tank and go to Moscow and see if you can liberate the city. I mean, why would you do that? And not follow through and entertain the rest of us at the same time.
Let it go, Walt. Let it go.
Sorry, I'm so
Let it go.
disappointed in this episode of the Russians. I
Get
tell
your
you.
own tank. Get your own tank. Get over there.
Yeah,
Sort it.
that's
you
true.
wanted him to go all the way to Moscow?
Well, I wanted to see a good ending. I didn't want it to be like Games of Thrones final season, right? But no, it actually, in hindsight, it's better that nothing blew up, I guess.
Yeah.
And Lukashenko from Belarus has got a new friend. And so they're all happy together. How's your garden growing, Martha?
Oh, it's growing. We had a pretty rainy week.
Beg your pardon, Walter. That's a personal question, isn't it? I'm sorry about that, Martha. I'm so crass. Crass individual.
How's Jim's garden growing?
Yeah.
Jesus, Walter, let it go.
Oh, my groin is pretty out of control. Is that what you meant?
I was a lot more respectable last week and the week before when you were off gallivanting with Moose.
I think you were wonderful, actually. You're a good interviewer, a good host, and when you shave, you're nice to look at.
Dirty man, Walter. Sorry about that, Martha. How was your garden growing, by the way?
Oh, very well. It's turning into a jungle out there. Surprisingly, we only had like 1 day of sun all week long.
Right.
So I don't know what's going to happen.
Do
But
you
it's
send?
definitely growing.
Do you tell Jim he has to weed because you planted it?
He eats more than the fiercest woodchuck out there. Yeah.
Right.
I'm
He's
now
mad
part
about
of
the
world of
greens.
double entendre. I do apologize.
Yeah.
I also go outside and eat slugs at night.
Oh,
Does. It's
Are you-
taken
well, that's
upon
that's because you're putting beer in the ground for them to drown in, right? And then Jim's attracted to the beer.
No, that's a myth, isn't it? Does
It
that work?
works. It works.
It works, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is that gonna make the chipmunks drunk?
This is no word of a lie. A local pub in Seam was once they used to hold the world championship slug racing competition on
Is
it
there
was on
race-
the
Little buggers are fast.
Even on the news, you had these trails of plastic with beer at each end, and they put a little marker on each slug, and you had to bet on the slugs. So they were gambling on which slug would make it to the beer. So yeah, they love beer apparently, but it kills them.
They love. Yeah.
You've got to find better hobbies in the UK.
Yeah,
Well, they like cheese rolling too, right? So
yeah, nothing better than rolling large cheese down a hill and breaking your back trying to catch it.
right. No, that's true.
Yeah. Why don't you invade India again?
Yeah, no.
That worked out
The ori-
great.
I got to
The
do
original
something.
game of football involved around 2,000 people, one ball, and no rules.
But you don't have cornhole.
Well, no, see, I've heard you guys mention the cornhole before, and it disturbs us. Just the thought of it.
You
What
know,
is it?
the 4th of July weekend's a big cornhole weekend here in Maine.
Don't understand what that is. I've had it explained.
That's when we fought the War of Independence against you, so we could cornhole each other.
Is it a medical? Is it a medical condition?
It could lead to one, yes.
I'm beginning to wonder. No, it's fine.
Only if
keep
you've
that.
had too much chowder.
That's one bit of culture you can keep. In America, we'll not have that one.
Cornholing involves tossing bags of beans towards a circular hole target.
Again, I'm still trapped in double entendre world in my head. I'm
Okay,
trying my best.
let me try to clear it up, Mick. You try to insert a bunch of your beans.
Your sack goes
Your
in
sack.
the hole.
Yeah, does that clear it up?
Still something going on here. I can't. No, it's still. Explain the sack business.
Okay. Well, a bunch of old men try to put their scrotums into a. Never mind.
Cornholing. Yeah, I get it now.
There you go. See.
Yeah, I get it now. Old men with sacks in a hole.
It's the language. It's the language difference.
Well,
That's the problem.
It is. It's the thing that divides us, the English language. Yes.
You people, you cornhole on the wrong side of the street.
We don't use any corn.
Where's everybody? What happened?
I know it all went odd. Walter's shooting it.
Sorry about that. I had something to take care of, which I did, and I can't find myself again.
Didn't involve a sock, did it?
I really, I was enjoying that that cornhole thing. I've never had a cornhole experience, and we shall never. Let's hope that doesn't ever happen.
Yes.
Well, you're kind of close-minded. Kind of close-minded of you, Walter, of you Canadians.
Well, if as a vegetarian, would you have to use olive oil or canola oil? I mean, never mind.
That would help.
I'm talking about corn, which I bought corn today, and it came from America because our corn's not ready yet. But we'll see how it is. 4 for $5.
Oh,
which is a bit of a.
That's pretty expensive.
Yes, it's expensive corn. It came a long way from the United States up to here, right? So
that's
transportation costs,
Pretty much every bit of produce from America going back to Canada will be smoked.
I don't understand it. BC apples go to Washington. Washington apples come here.
Smoked apples. That's what they're going to get now.
Smoked apples, yeah.
Yeah.
And England, proper, not experiencing wildfires.
We still haven't burst into flames yet. That might happen later on in the summer, but it's likely to happen in the inner cities. People are unhappy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And
I
you
think
got
the
rid of
flames are going to be. The flames are going to be man-made, I think.
Well, you got rid of your trees a long time ago too, right? So.
Yeah. They ended up in the Navy, which ended up in the sea.
Yeah. No, you took the trees from PEI in Newfoundland.
Yes.
Built your Navy. That's
because we had none left.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true too. And
you wasted all your wood on wood hinges.
And America lost their trees through telegraph poles and building the railway. That's where a lot of your trees went.
That's right.
That and pencils.
And suburbs, early suburbs, Douglas fir, a lot of.
Well, my house is built out of Douglas fir from 1957, right? And
where was that there? Blind Willie McTell song, that song? 1957.
Don't care.
My house was built in a Douglas fir.
Okay.
Good song.
Still don't care. But Douglas fir is now, they're going to, I guess it's a long growing tree. And so they're going more into spruce and to other firs. And we got rid of most of our Douglas fir. Go figure.
By long grown, do you mean grows for a long time? Or it's quite tall and spindly?
Yeah, it takes a long time to grow, but it's straight and true, just like an Englishman.
What's doing in Canada?
Yeah. I've never heard of a straight Englishman, but
I beg your pardon. Oh
Come
yeah,
on.
how American.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Scar-
we're all gay in Britain.
Scarlet Pimpernel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was French.
It don't matter. He was playing in England.
Yeah.
Right. You know, you gotta, it's diversity. England had diversity long before anybody else.
Yes.
Dr. Nancy
We
has a
had whites.
question.
We had whites from all over Europe.
Dr.
Yes,
Nancy.
Walter.
Yes.
How does the melting permafrost affect the way the trees are growing?
Oh, that is a question for somebody who's more intelligent than me. I could tell you
Take your pick, Walt.
that the melting permafrost is because it's released. This is what I know. It's releasing the gases and the carbon stored in the ground that was frozen for years, right? Now it's releasing into the atmosphere, and it's coming at an alarming rate. And it's one of the reasons for climate change. Now, as far as Prince George, which is a northern town, has an ancient forest, and it has cedar trees that are linked to California. Apparently, there was a trail of cedar trees that went all the way to California, and they grow in trees, by the way. And they have this lichen in the ancient forest that only grows where there's no pollution. And we were there, and it's quite wonderful, and the air is nice. But I would suggest that sooner or later it'll be a tropical place as well, as it used to be before the ice age, with the rate we're going.
I'm liking that idea.
Right. So
I'm all on board for that.
I have some land.
Do apologize.
Walter, just out of curiosity, what latitude were you? Were you above 62?
I was.
I'm at 62.
Yeah, I was at 63. I was north of 60.
Okay, just let them.
Right, which is a good CBC television show with an RCMP officer that I really like.
Look at Joe trying to compare northernly most flipping latitudes.
Right, but he's got that Gulf Stream too, right? So I don't.
Yeah, would not be livable up here otherwise.
Yeah,
we're still a good way from the Arctic, though.
Are you? I could see the Arctic from my house.
Were you able to see Russia from your doorstep?
No, just Alaska. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, no, that's a good question with the permafrost and the Siberia, though. Lane, was it you talking about all the fires burning in Siberia?
No, not fires, but they were getting 40 degrees C in Siberia, which was the first they've ever had. Well, unrecorded history. So they've not had fires as of yet. My point was it's mainly forest in Siberia. So if that goes up, Lordy.
Yeah, and we still got more. We're not even we're just getting into July now, and then wait for Portugal and Greece to have their fires. And anything to help Jim's garden grow, I think is the mantra here, because it'll
Jim,
heat
you
up
could
around
set it
May.
on fire because it does produce nitrates.
Oh, good point.
Just set your garden on fire.
I think Walter's up north, and he's working on some technical thing that it's a little hush hush, and he doesn't want anybody to know about it because he is working for some evil corporation that wants to set fire to all the world's forests.
We all work for Evil Corps. We all do.
Evil Corps.
If you're writing for a TV series, Jim, you're working for Evil Corps.
I haven't written for a TV series in what is it? 20 years.
You can't get the taint off you. You're smudging with that. You're a corporate man, Jim. I can tell. You don't cause problems for anybody, do you, Jim?
You can't give anybody a hint what you're doing.
No,
What kind? Is it a technical job? Is it a corporate?
Sure,
a computer
sure, it's technical. Yeah, sure. Let's go with
data
that.
programming kind of
Let
thing?
let me
Those
tell you.
Chinese spy balloons up there.
Ah,
Let me tell you about a plan that was developed, and Richard Romer put it into a book, and it was quite neat. Over at the Canadian Shield is like bedrock. So the plan was, and they have was to drill a hole into the ground as far as you can go and widen it, and then take all the nuclear waste and dump it into it, and then cover it up. That would have solved the nuclear waste. Although probably not a good idea, and I don't know, but I'm not working on that. How about that, Jim? I'm not that smart. I'm
you're working on just
buddy.
You're working on an alternate plan to just dump it into the ocean.
I want to build the tunnel sideways to California to the salt caverns is my plan.
Sounds good.
Yeah, Bullwinkle and Boris and Natasha would agree with me. That would be a good
Are you defrosting these zombies?
defrosting the north, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's true. Oh, hey, I've got so the gold that's in the Yukon, you've heard all these stories, right? So I heard a story about it, was the fact that it was a meteor crash. Gold dust everywhere and gold rocks came from a meteor crash. And then I found out today that the biggest nuggets that you can find for gold are in Australia, because they have a lot of gold, right? Same thing. It came from a meteor crash.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
That's what we want. Let's start praying for meteors.
Well,
could you send us some nuggets?
No. Painted rocks, yeah, sure. Gold, painted gold. But so it was very interesting, and I ran into some guys who do their own mining. A guy and his woman, guy and his wife, him and her, and that's what they do. Is they go out and pan for gold, and they make enough to survive the winter, and that's their lifestyle. There's two old guys who have an old tractor. They're both senile, and their sons let them go out into the claim, and they pretend that they're mining, but they're not, because they forgot how to turn the key on. But they go out there, and then the kids bring them back in the fall. I met, actually, it's very interesting because up north I met a guy who's working, and he lives in Inuvik, which is more north of Whitehorse. So I says, so you come south to work, and then you go back north to live. And I go north to work and go back south, right? So that was kind of interesting. Like, he's more northern. Inuvik will get to -70 in the wintertime, right?
Wow.
And Whitehorse region will get to -63 Fahrenheit. -60, so.
How many layers do you wear in that type of weather?
How many layers?
How many layers? Yeah, would you wear 70 below?
Depends how far the trailers are apart.
Yeah.
You run out of the trailer into the snow and into the other trailer, right? So it's quite neat. It's quite. Oh, I met you want another Yukon story? Here it is. There's a guy up there with Rastafarian hair. It's a white guy, and his wife. They they bought a yacht. It's in Panama. So they work in the north and for the last 3 years, and they bought this yacht, and their plan is to go busking at bars singing. And he brought his guitar out one morning. Heck of a singer, heck of a guitar player too. So it was quite fascinating. I mean, you have all these stories of us little people that you never see on TV or anything, or get announced to the media. How are people living, right? And it's quite fascinating.
Sweet.
Do the guys up in the Klondike panning for gold, do they talk like, Jigger, I'm gonna get me a pan and woo?
Those are the guys originally from Saskatchewan. who are now living there. So
You
I just
fucking
wanted to say the
beans.
word Saskatchewan, right? Pardon me?
I went,
Link?
you fucking beans. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Yep.
That's right. But enough about me. I mean, we could talk all night about me.
So
but
you haven't killed anybody for their claim?
no, no. Funny you should ask. No, I'm not going to tell. I'm going to save that story.
Okay.
Okay, but there are claims, and people have, and they'll take 4 or 5 claims, but they have to re-up. They have to work the land, or they lose the claim, right? After so many years. So there are some claims up there now. So I'm thinking, Jim and Martha, you got nothing to do. You want to pan for gold? Do you watch the Discovery Channel and the gold TV show that they have for all
No.
these guys?
No, we
Well,
haven't.
that's where I was. I was up there with all those guys who were they have sluice boxes. They bring their gold into Dawson to get weighed, sorry, you know, for TV. And yeah, it's quite fascinating. Some of these guys make some good money.
Sluice boxes. Yeah.
Sluice
Hydraulic
boxes.
mining. Are they just
We have Americans that come up here to the Thompson and Fraser River and they pan for gold. And they make, I don't know, maybe a few hundred, a few thousand while they're doing it. They're up on vacation.
Wow.
well,
What is the object fascination with gold, right?
you make a lot of money quickly? Very rarely.
Well, you know, between you and me with these gold companies is not quick. It's a heck of an investment to get into it, because it's not like looking for nuggets on the road. It's they destroy a mountain. Well, they move it. They take the ore, they crush it, and then they either use cyanide to get the gold out, or they crush the ore and send it to China for processing.
So they destroy the environment for 2 ounces of gold.
There you go.
Poison everybody downstream, kill the fish, and
Well,
deform their children.
I mean, it's not Dow Chemical up there, if that's what you're thinking.
It's
Dream
lawless.
boy got a song. Paint your
There's-
wagon and come along.
There's no Teflon plants up there, right? So
It's a lawless area. The
Sure.
Yukon,
sure, yes,
full of varmints,
it's a lot like Maine. Yes,
castaways,
yeah, mooses.
moose.
Moose. So plural of moose is, you know, it should be mooses, but it's not. It's moose, right?
Meese.
Well, that's
Mice.
what I was thinking. So mouses is mice. So
We
well,
love this conversation.
but I tell you, the air is phenomenal for breathing. And if you have asthma, well, it's dry though. It's dry, so you might be good up there with asthma and stuff like that. However, the sun doesn't set. You have to put tinfoil on the windows. Right. Well, it does set, but you're asleep for it.
So
And then it works the other way. It's up at around noon in the wintertime and goes down by 4:30. So
Yeah, that's Maine.
that's Maine.
Yeah.
That's where we all are. too.
Yeah. Sounds
So-
like Maine.
Yeah, that's true.
Can't
but
get there.
we put tinfoil on our heads
Yeah.
because we're Mainers and we're proud of it. We're
You-
proud of our tinfoil. We're proud of our heads, and we're proud of being proud.
But you do it to keep thoughts from getting out, not getting in that way.
We want all thoughts to just stay in.
Yeah.
And confuse each other's thought, confuse the thoughts, and cause all kinds of frustration.
So you guys
If
are
you don't
natural
do that, you
politicians. You're natural politicians then. Right.
Yes, we're middle
Yeah.
of the road.
So let's get your opinion of Kennedy. Do you think he'll make a good president? I don't have a picture of him today. I'm sorry. Do you think
Kennedy.
he'll make a good
Died.
president? Not that one, Lane.
Oh,
All right.
The other one. And not
No, he
the
got-
one
he
that
got shot as
Madonna,
well.
didn't Madonna eat peanut butter off JFK Jr.? Was it peanut butter? Obviously before he died, but what about this current Kennedy that's running? And he's proud of the fact that Trump likes him.
Yeah,
Trump called him an amazing fellow.
he's a lunatic.
Mhm.
He's a
Trump?
he's a serial liar and a lunatic.
Trump?
Of course.
Yes, and Kennedy. Yeah.
Kennedy,
Kennedy too.
but he's got the Kennedy name.
I
Yeah.
know. That's weird. But he's a serial liar and a lunatic. Yeah.
I could see him being a serialized womanizer. I mean, that runs in the family. But
That does run in the family.
yeah.
He's probably the worst, saddest tragedy to befall the Kennedy name ever.
Well, he put a
Well, he's the
picture
only
up.
one who survived.
Yeah.
The only one left. They've all been wiped out. The Kennedy curse.
But he had a picture with
Coincidence? Yeah.
coincidence. Yeah, he had a picture with his shirt off too, right? And he was very pumped.
Mm.
Tell you what, Rush Limbaugh would hate.
Was he pumped? He definitely wasn't jabbed.
He could barely do 9 push-ups.
Who, Biden?
No, Kennedy. He could barely do 9 push-ups, and he's out there bragging. Look at my bulging Popeye-esque arms and forearms. It's like it's just a bunch of performative bullshit. This guy's out of his mind. He should stay home and keep popping steroids.
Why don't you like to have a young, healthy president? What's going on here?
Didn't sound healthy.
Yeah, it's true.
His voice, no matter what you do, you know, I'm not having a go at people with dodgy conditions,
right?
But when you're going to be president of the world, it's best not to speak like that. I don't think he's going to make it.
No, he doesn't have a chance, but he is making a lot of, he has a chance in destroying vaccines for humanity. I think he's well on his way doing that.
Well, is he against vaccines or is he just vaccine curious?
Yeah, he's against vaccines.
Okay.
There isn't a vaccine that he favors.
Like the polio and stuff, isn't he for it? Because his generation, if he didn't have the polio vaccine, he could be
dead.
Yes.
Well, it's the same for every anti-vax nutcase, you know. But they grew up that way. They all had to endure mandates going to school. You couldn't go to college or elementary school or get into college or get in the military or leave the freaking country to go to another country without getting vaccines.
First you talk about cornhole and now you're talking about mandates. Like, what the heck? What's going on in me?
Okay. See, I thought that would have come out of Lane, that pun. All right.
How dare you consider me so crass?
Well, let me put this Bud Light to the side.
They're both very light, that one.
That's right too. Yeah. That lady from Bud Light, let's get your opinion. So that's that story. I think everybody's aware of how they, lost a whole bunch of beer customers by trying to show their pride in a way. That lady that they fired who had the original advertising, she's suing now.
Good.
She's saying she was unjustly fired. Now, aside from politics in it, if you do your job badly, should you not get fired, and can you sue to get your job back?
Well, she did her job fine. She did. Just because some people didn't like it doesn't mean that she didn't do the job.
Right. Well, that was kind of my argument just a little bit. Because I think they had every right to fire her, to be honest. But why isn't her boss fired, or whoever okayed the project that I was going to do? Or should she not just go into a back room till? And I say back room is a different position, is what I mean.
They threw her under the bus, and they're making her take the heat rather than Budweiser.
I mean, it's so ridiculous. I mean, if it tastes good and you drink it, right? The whole thing's ridiculous, but they lost a lot of share in properties. So I seen a hand up and I think I was too late getting to it. Was it Dr. Nancy?
Oh, I was going to say something about the vaccines, but
Oh, go ahead, Dr. Nancy, go ahead.
everything everyone said, I agree with. But I will say that there's so many of these autistic kids, which I could do a whole hour presentation on from my experience, but you know, there are a minority who have dramatic stories of their kid getting a vaccine and overnight losing the ability to talk and make eye contact. My argument is that that it's not the answer. It's been proven unequivocally that vaccines do not cause autism. But I've seen a lot of autistic kids, and my theory is that it's from any kind of stress. And it doesn't have to be the vaccine. It can be having pneumonia. It can be because you had a brother or sister born, which is pretty traumatic.
Right.
Anyway, but see, if you've heard these stories and you see one of these terribly dysfunctional kids, you start to believe it because it does happen overnight, sometimes right after the vaccine. And then that gets generalized to saying it's bad. Every vaccine is bad. And it's bad science. RFK is not a scientist.
The majority of the anti-vaccine argument is based on anecdotal evidence. And the massive majority of science, as you said, has established that vaccines have no connection to autism, and they don't make you sterile. They don't interfere with your pregnancy. They don't make you infertile. They don't deplete your semen and
blood clots.
But the infection can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the caveat to this, though, is bad batches, bad production values from trying to save money from companies who have, the polio vaccine was a batch went out that had live virus in it, which was detrimental to the population. The COVID vaccine, they shut down one of those plants. Was it? I'm not going to say the name because I forgot which plant that was making it because of bad production and bad batches, right?
I don't know about the COVID but the polio first vaccine had problems because it was what do you call it? Live attenuated or
right,
whatever.
But they were supposed to kill it before in the population, so they had a batch that did go like it worked, but then they did bad production values and it.
But the thing is, they stopped it. They didn't continue in a gigantic worldwide global conspiracy involving 10,000 people over the period of 40 years.
Worldwide with 10,000 people? Aren't you? You're a little bit under there.
To continue pushing a killer vaccine on people for profit. These were stopped. The whole regulatory process exists to figure out.
It exists for companies to pay to get their formula approved. Isn't that how it's the FDA's gone?
No.
No?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Tobacco will cure your asthma, and it gets approved by the FDA.
The tobacco isn't a vaccine.
I just generalized there, Jim. So sorry.
It's a different process.
Rick, you had a question, or did you put your hand down? Rick?
No, I put my hand down. Thank you, though, for recognizing me.
I want to know.
Everybody's recognized on this show, even people without their hands being up. Oh, Dr. Nancy, you have a question or a comment?
I want to know how many people are here had friends or your parents had friends who were crippled by polio. Because that was my family. No one in my family, but they had friends. And so when we got the vaccine, I never saw anything make my parents so happy as to give us polio vaccines.
Did you ever watch Queen for the Day, Dr. Nancy?
Sure.
the TV show. So that was a phenomenal TV show that took, I'm going to say, poor and poverty-stricken people onto a game show and tried to give them stuff. So they would ask each woman, and I think their first one was, I'd like a radio for my son to listen to while he lays in bed trying to recover from polio. It just pulls at
Oh
your
my God.
heartstrings, right? And I would like a bed for my son who has polio, and so he can look out the window, a reclining bed, right? So I agree with everything said here. That's for sure.
I grew up seeing Iron Lungs
Yes.
regularly
Mannix.
on TV.
It was on Mannix. I remember that episode.
Ironside, Perry Mason, Mannix, you know, and all this stuff. You grew up with, what the hell is that person? And commercials with Iron Lungs.
And black and white TV.
Yeah.
Right.
How can you be against vaccine after seeing that?
That's true. But there's always a but. The way it was handled too was a little iffy, that made the talk on both sides get muddled. I think the government could have been nice and straight and said, okay, here. Instead, we got all these conspiracy theories. I mean, the world's a conspiracy nut now.
Well,
right?
There's bad communication and bad publicity and with everything. But
well, I have a friend who ended up with COVID, a young guy, leaner, healthier than I would say myself, and they had him laying on his stomach trying to breathe. They had the respiratory the tubes down his throat, and then it was that, somebody helped me with the word, monoclonal therapy. That's what saved him, right? So I asked him, well, how come you didn't get vaccinated? And he said, I was listening to the wrong guys at work. So it's a lot of groupthink too, right? And I said, but the thing is, his son had it, was okay. His wife got it from his son, and he got it from his wife, right? Or thereabouts, and they were okay. For him, a healthy, lean guy, just devastated him, eh? He almost died. He was texting me from his hospital bed. I think this is it, Walter.
There's a lot of dogma, almost religious dogma going on with anti-vaxxers. And I don't mind using that cliche and overused term anti-vaxxer, but that's just what they are. It's a lot of dogma going on that they take offense at science, the scientific consensus changing with new data. Almost religiously, they think, well, they changed it. It must be a conspiracy. The vaccine went from 80 to 90% efficacy to 60%. Why is that? Well, there are new variants and new data and everything else, but
and different studies.
Yeah, different studies. But they say, they automatically assume that they were lied to, and they want everything. They took the first thing that they heard and read as religious dogma, and anything
that
varies from it.
The pharmaceutical companies.
On the whole,
me or you? Okay, you.
On the whole, people have a problem with experts.
Yes.
Because for so long, experts have told them how to live, told them what to do, told them what to buy to succeed, and they've tried all this shit and it's left them in the shit. So that's what it is. Not necessarily strictly about doctors and stuff, but it's experts, and it's what brought about Brexit and all that stuff. People didn't give a shit.
Right.
They were saying, like, the experts are saying it's going to be catastrophic for the economy. Don't do it the way we don't care.
Well, okay.
And it's the same impulse.
Before we go to a question from Dr. Nancy, just let me say that the pharmaceutical companies did not help themselves, because with polio, it was a cost. I mean, whatever it cost was the average amount. With the COVID, they made bank. The pharmaceutical companies made bank. They stopped it from going to third world countries unless they signed over resources and stuff. So they did not help themselves, and that's part of the PR, right?
Well, that's part of the PR, but it's not that the vaccines didn't work. That's part of the bad PR. It's that they were excluded and kept from poor countries.
Yes,
and they didn't share patents and
a patent that the government funded to come about.
Yes, that we funded.
Yes, that's right too. Dr. Nancy, go ahead if you got a second.
Jim, I agree. It wasn't because it didn't work. The vaccines work. And Lane, I agree with your first statement that people just don't trust experts anymore. I think they're threatened by people who are educated, but nobody has brought up the Trump issue. And Trump was so busy trying to look good that he wouldn't take the advice of the experts. And he's the one who I think gave rise to this idea that, well, they tell us something different every week. Well, they tell us something different all the time because Trump wouldn't talk about the science. He talked about politics. He tried to make this politics, and he made it politics. It's not politics, it's science. And then, the whole big business of not giving it to other countries and that sort of thing. And that's fair, but if you stuck to reading the science, there wasn't any flip-flopping. It was all sincere, and they worked hard to get it out. I think, yes, they took advantage like everybody does nowadays financially. We need to get rid of the big corporations.
And there's nothing new about this. I mean, Trump is relatively new to people's consciousness because he's so big now, but this goes back 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years. The same people, the same types of arguments against medical interventions and medical discoveries and vaccines are being used now as were used 90, 100 years ago. When I was growing up, you had these people sending each other chain letters with the John Birch Society paranoia back and forth. And it was the same kind of bullshit about you do this, then the world economy is going to collapse. So send this letter to 7 other people so it doesn't collapse, and don't take a vaccine because then that's how they control you. And that's the coming of the sign of the apocalypse coming, and God and Jesus is going to come and destroy the world and take all the sinners and stick them in hell, and just go and set fire to Jerusalem and kill all the Jews. And you're going to go up to sit at the throne of God with him,
right?
And his pet hamster.
And your wife is on a different cloud because she's not allowed to join you. I think it's one of the
He's in purgatory.
That's true. Praise the Lord. Well, we have other guests on the lineup, and Martha and Jim, thank you so much for showing. Can we do this again next week with you guys?
Sure, if you can stand us.
I can stand you. Sure. I just have to I just mute you when I get annoyed. That's all. I got no problem. And thank you, Dr. Nancy, for your wisdom there. And everybody say goodbye to Jim and Martha, because we're going to go to some Rush, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Take care. We have Rush Limbaugh coming up too. So
see you in court.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Stick around, but bye. Okay, so we have is James Human sorry. Is Rush number 2 ready?
I'm here.
Yeah. Oh, he gets second billing.
So I hear Rush number 1. So let me bring you guys on, and thank you so much, Rick.
What?
If that is your real name.
I'm still here.
Right.
No, I'm still here.
Look, I was
hold on, boys. Jim, I can't even find you, James. How come I can't find you?
Lord.
All right. Probably the best bit, and I probably ruined it already. Oh,
you don't find any Rush Limbaugh pictures.
Yeah, what a handsome man young Rush was, I'll tell you. That's true. Okay. All right, so this is epic. Well, maybe. It's 2 rushes.
2 rushes make a right, if you know what I mean.
Indeed.
So I was speaking to my friend Richard Nixon, And he was telling me there's someone in this hellscape that seems to think he's Rush Limbaugh. So I brought him on with me today to speak with you all. You can decide who the real Rush is. Rush number 2, if that is your real name. What do you have to say for yourself?
Well, I, for one, have to say that I am the true Rush Limbaugh, because I'm the one who was sent back down here to hell after dying posthumously. And I must tell you that I speak for all us fellow people who belong up there with you, but are in fact have been erroneously sent down here to hell to suffer along with Richard Nixon, President Nixon, who is, I just had drinks with just the other night with bourbon and a couple of cigars. And
this is outrageous. I don't like the way you're dragging my name through the mud. The golden EIB microphone. It's never been mistreated in such a distasteful way. Sandra Fluke would not have used it for a tampon the way you are using it now.
My golden EIB microphone, I will have you know, is standing next to me right here, and I would have no intention of ever misusing such a fine, beautiful, well, slightly phallic, if I have to say, but beautiful instrument that has been with me ever since my early days, before when I was on WABC, one of the finest network talk radio stations.
Oh, you talk a good
America.
game. You talk a good game, Rush number 2. But if you're really Rush Limbaugh, can you tell me where I can get some good OxyContin?
Well, if you were down here in hell with me, you would have some of the finest dealers that I have access to, and some of the finest OxyContin. And let me tell you, I have access to the actual brand, the high quality brand product, not that cheap off-brand stuff that you tend to use.
You're barking up the wrong tree, mister. Now, you don't understand. What it takes to be Rush Limbaugh, you have to have 100% dedication and talent on loan from God. You, sir, seem to have talent on loan from, oh, I don't know, the Rent-A-Center.
You mentioned trees, and I'll tell you one of the finest, one of the greatest quotes that I am known for is about trees. The best thing you can do, best thing about a tree is what you can do with it after you cut it down. That is one of my greatest quotes.
You talk a good game, but I bet you have never chopped a tree in your life.
Absolutely. Of course, I have not chopped a tree in my life. I pay other people to do it. On my estate in beautiful...
I suppose you just let the Cubans roll your cigars for you too, you maniac.
Well, absolutely. I have an incredible contact with us to get the finest Cuban cigars down here in hell. Hand-rolled.
You're probably hanging out with Castro right now.
That, sir, is an insult. I despise Castro. I despise everything that is communist, except for their fine cigars.
You know what? I think we found some common ground, Rush number 2. The finest cigar in hell or above is indeed Cuban.
Absolutely. Cuba, some of the finest, to be accompanied with a good bourbon or single malt scotch. And that, even though I am in hell, puts me in heaven.
Well, I will agree to disagree, but as I must be shoveling off, as you must be, I'll let you reign in hell as Rush number 2, and we'll have this conversation again, but I am reborn, and I'll walk this fair earth, planting trees and then chopping them down.
We shall meet again, and we shall have this ongoing disagreement to agree, and we shall have a rematch.
Thank you, Russian Rush.
See why you hate Rush, Walter? Russia the worst.
Jeez, buddy. Okay. We'll be right back after this with Cameron and Charity. You cannot you have to bob your head when that plays, I think, eh? So let me find of course we call out for production help to help us with stuff, and I can't find it, but Cameron.
Charity.
Here we go. Cameron and Charity. Add pin. There you go. Hey, how are you?
Hi, how's it
Hi,
going?
Charity. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you
Good.
doing?
I'm okay. What do you do? Are you what's happening?
I'm
What are
looking
you-
for garlic right now. Yeah, I know. Cameron just actually had to run off to the washroom really quick.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, so that's us right now. That's fine.
Well, that's good. Can I play a quick clip of your friend Smith Wetset off your Facebook?
Yes, by all
Okay.
means.
Let me do that, okay? And then we'll continue our discussion.
Yes.
We gotta cross this bridge before our car comes. Shit. It's not the safest leg of the run, but I'm gonna cross again. Love you, Crystal. Love you, Francis. Love you, Delphine. Cecilia. Colton. You're on my minds today.
But I see you have there's a lot of support out here for
Yes. Oh, there's
for this. So what was did Smith, is he doing it on his own or as part of this, or do you have
we have there's quite a few walkers out there. We actually came across a group Nepi's runners, and they were coming from St. John's going to British Columbia, so they were coming from Newfoundland. We crossed them. We've also crossed another and they were doing it for Mother Earth. There's another family, the boys family, and they're walking for missing and murdered Indigenous men, boys, and two spirits, as well as for health injustices within the healthcare system, which is a big one for all of us. Like I remember I mentioned before, like how I'm scared to go into hospitals and stuff by myself. And there's some things with that, like I'm really happy they're doing that, because I have a lot of stories about that I just ain't ready to talk about. Like, I don't know if you picked up on that day when we were having a conversation, that there was something that I wanted to say, but there's no way I can talk about it yet just because it's too painful still.
Sure. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's always hopefully time and distance will heal. What did you do to your, okay, well, first of all, let's just say you're walking across Canada in support of murdered and missing Indigenous people, which includes women, children, and men.
Yes.
And I actually ran into a story from a friend of mine out of Kamloops too. They're looking for her right
Oh, wow.
now. Yeah. And I'm glad you're able to supply some publicity for this, and I'm glad you're able to talk to us about this serious issue, and hopefully, and it affects both Canadians and Americans. And I'm going to say other indigenous people throughout the colonies. I would say to my friend Lane, maybe we picked the wrong colony to go to. But what did you do to your truck? That looks phenomenal.
Oh, okay. So, babe, do you want to pack him over? I'm really clumsy. I'd want to pack him over.
Where do you get internet out in the boonies? You're out in the boonies?
We're at a provincial park. Parks Ontario has graciously offered us free campsites along the way. They heard about what we're doing. We have the poster that you've seen, and our friend in the military base there, our community member from Seike, he set up a Facebook group for us. So things have really been picking up for us quite a bit, actually.
Wow. Look, this is decked out.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've seen the Thunder Bay news article. So
Bring your phone, babe.
We did get the, oh, sorry.
I'll get the link to that and put it in the show notes here. No, I haven't yet. So,
I'm the deputy grand chief of the Northern Tribes in Ontario. She actually came out and walked with us, and she set up ceremony for us as well.
Right.
Yeah, they drummed, they sang. It was amazing. So we did get our Thunder Bay news article, our Ontario news article.
Okay.
And radio interview as well. Yeah, actually it's been going pretty good. And for me it's been really amazing because, you know, coming from where I was a year ago, this is a big change for me.
So would you say this is a spiritual awareness for yourselves too as well? Or
Yes.
you're just pleasantly surprised at the reaction is
Well, just because, like I said, I thought the story that my story about my son's father, I thought that was like the experiences he was having was super unique, and it's really not. Like, that's the sad part about it, is it's not. You get the same story as you cross the province, and we're also it is spiritually awakening for us as well, right? Because this is something you can't really do this. You can't honor your missing and murdered unless you're walking the red road, right?
Right.
Like it just seems unethical to us. And my husband's been sober for 12 years. I'm under a year sober. So for me, it was just like, I can't drink until I'm done this, right? That's the thing. And yeah, so yes, it's definitely been spiritually awakening, because a lot of the times before, when I wanted to deal with stuff like that, or I wanted to avoid dealing with feelings, I would go and have a glass of wine or go hang out with the girls, you know, go chill out or do something. And it's like, just go dancing, forget about it kind of deal, right? And push it to the back of your mind. So sobriety it's tough. Like, you can't just push things to the back of your mind. You have to deal with it, and you can't numb that pain with anything.
Yeah, there's something about carrying baggage from the past though, but you have to deal with it in order to close that suitcase of baggage and let it go, right? So I understand that. I'm a wise old man. Old is the premise there. Okay, so when we left you, so it's been 2 weeks since we had you on. Sorry, I was up north myself, and you were.
Oh, wow, it's been 2 weeks, eh?
Yeah, it has been. I missed you guys. It's been Manitoba, and then you were coming into Ontario. Where are you now?
We are at White Lake, Ontario right now.
What lake?
White Lake.
Okay. Well, it looks like a nice lake. Good trees, good camping, is it too as well?
Yeah, lots of mosquitoes.
Yeah. We thought mosquitoes were going to be bad in Manitoba, and
no, they're really bad here.
Yeah.
They really love me.
They love Cameron. I love that he likes sweet Sobe here.
Oh, okay. So where's your next stop after this? Do you know?
Wawa. I think Wawa is the next big town. White Lake is just up the road. Or Jack Lake, is it? I can't remember what. Someone said Winnie the Pooh.
I think Winnie the Pooh is White River.
Yeah,
I think it was White River. I seen Winnie the Pooh. Like,
Yeah,
where
it's
Winnie the Pooh originated.
yeah, Winnie the Pooh originated from there, I guess, and so that's 45 kilometers from here, I think, or from where we left off.
Right.
Did you mention that we have to go back a bit?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, yeah, so we have to, because it was getting late, and I wanted to keep going, but
We always need to cook and set up camp. Sorry, I
yeah,
was just throwing
my
food
wife
on.
my wife chases me in the truck.
Yeah. Yeah, so so we always have to cook and set up camp, and it's nice. It's
Yeah.
not nicer picking a spot to pitch the tent and put
Right.
the tarp up and all that when it's not pitch black.
So we got a question from the audience. They're wondering, how are your feet and bodies holding up under the stress?
It's
my feet, they're good. It's my quads that are really taking a toll, because after the past couple of days I've been taking a lot of the load, because my wife has an ear infection.
I have a bit of an ear infection.
So
mosquitoes are chewing me alive right now.
So I did 32 over 32 and a half kilometers today, and yesterday how much did I do yesterday? I did a lot of the load yesterday as well.
Yeah. And yesterday was a short day for us though too, so that was nice. Went into the.
I'm really feeling bad for you guys getting eaten up by those mosquitoes out there.
Yeah, we're trying everything.
I just inhaled one.
We got this thing here. Thermacell, it's not really working right now, but hopefully it works soon.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, as soon as the mosquitoes know that there's a thermocell there, they'll away for sure. Isn't that how it works?
It went right to the back of my throat.
Oh.
There's no spitting that one out.
Oh, geez, Willikers, sorry to hear. And for people, I hope you've been following Facebook for Charity and MMIW Facebook page. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in the last 2 weeks? You met some amazing people and on the road, and you've been posting videos and pictures, and I just love it. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
So Cameron's actually got his TikTok. He's doing lives on there. Everybody seems to really love to see his reaction to what
Well, Cameron is a good-looking man, you know. And
yeah.
About that, there were some girls tonight honking and hollering at me, and as they went by, I'm like, "Don't yell at me, or don't scream at me. I'm married."
Look, a man who's not lazy off the couch, right?
That's right.
But you've been meeting some amazing people.
Yes.
Is there a story that jumps to mind that you really want to express?
One made Thunder Bay was everybody was telling us how bad it was, and I don't think we really understood like the severity. Like even you mentioned it when we first had the first podcast, right?
Right.
But because we're pretty small town kids, it's been, we haven't really we weren't really exposed to what was going on there. So when we did get close, we had more than one person tell us to check out the podcast, or like, you know, how they have it on Crave. Return to Thunder Bay was the podcast though.
Yes. Yeah.
And I didn't even make it through the second episode. It was just so disheartening. Like we had to take a break.
Yeah.
And it's like it's really sad that this is the only place that these youth get to go to school, and that this is an issue, like that they're just showing up in rivers. And there was more than one person that we met there that are either reached out to us via social media or by just talking to us, that had a personal story, and we got invited to the powwow there. We actually had an outpour of support even before we reached Thunder Bay, which was amazing. And like the deputy grand chief contacted us, and that was like, I was like, we're just two little kids from way up north in BC, right?
Mhm.
So we were completely honored to have her contact us directly and get us all set up for some days off. And they invited us to the powwow as well. So we got they done the honor song for us, and they done
Oh,
a
the honor
blanket
song.
ceremony. Yeah, a blanket ceremony as well. And the honor song was amazing. The elder said it came to him in a dream.
Really?
Yeah, so they like right in the middle of the powwow at the indigenous days. That is not working.
Yeah, yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah, but right in the middle of so it was really amazing. And we even had one of the ladies from the First Nation Health Authority reach out. She was checking on us like every day. She came and grabbed our blankets and washed them, and
Oh wow.
they done a big ceremony for us at the Terry Fox Monument.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we had elders there, drummers, the RCMP. They had a big breakfast for us. Like, it was just absolutely amazing. Like, just to have that kind of outpour of support was like humbling, right? Because we've never been in contact with anybody over here other than people that stop and talk to us.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was really similar to Winnipeg, except for Winnipeg, everybody was pretty busy, right? But we did get invited to the, what do you call that? The their first annual Arrowhead games. But
Okay.
yeah, no, like it was just
That's when we talked to you in
Yes.
that little conference room. Yeah.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
So that was
And then
really
you
nice.
went and watched hockey. So
A little bit of hockey then.
Yeah, we had to get back to Grudge.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we've got a bit of a theme running the last couple of weeks, and I wonder if it's partly with like the Thunder Bay series that's on TV or streaming is so Kelly from Nebraska was talking about poverty and about she's more eloquent than I am on the subject about food and stuff like that, shortages and stuff. Knowing some people in Prince George who are related to this problem and Thunder Bay, I would say poverty, not being able to have a roof over your head or have a job or getting tweaked out on the fentanyl that's out there. We were talking about that now is really because a lot of these people, like in Edmonton, where I am, a lot of the homeless seem like young, really young. Like,
yeah,
they've got no purpose. Sorry, I would like to think there's no reason why they should be homeless. So
yes,
yeah. Well,
sorry, go ahead. I don't know if you can run.
So I think this, I know I could run with that. This is another encounter that really sticks out to us too. Is this Spanish couple. And this really all ties back into the continuing genocide, right? Like this ongoing genocide of the indigenous populations, and that all always ties back to residential school. So when you think about it, I know you done the residential school podcast with my aunt Diane.
Yes. Yeah, that was powerful.
Yeah. So when you think about it, that's generations of parents that didn't get to parent, generations of children that didn't have parents.
Yes.
So that right there creates some residual trauma, not to mention all of the abuse that was experienced by the residential school survivors.
Right.
Stuff like that, right? So there's all this residual trauma that is undealt with, right? And then, like I said earlier, the coping mechanisms, right? There's a lot of poor coping mechanisms that came out of that. And it all goes back to that. Like there was like, you have a whole couple generations there of families that didn't do they didn't know how to tell their kids they love them, because they never heard it growing up in residential school. You know, if they were lucky when they came back, their parents were alive. And if they weren't, then their parents weren't, or their parents would be trying to cope with drinking and alcoholism and stuff like that. Then you also have the big 60 scoop generation as well. Can you add more water to that frying pan? Yeah. I don't want to burn our dinner. But
is it macaroni and cheese?
It is sausage and sweet potato.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, some brat roast.
Yeah.
But so
just to talk about that, I don't want to cut you off. I just want to reemphasize that that's exactly what like your aunt and I were talking about, was this generation of people who don't know their culture, don't know, because they were taken young, and then trying to get the Indian out of them, I think was the term at the time. I know, not politically correct, but
it was what it was, though.
yeah, that's true. And then you have a whole swath of people who can't even, much less look after. So there was one in that series that Diana and I were talking about, and was they're young, they get taken away, then when they're 15 they go back, and they have no association with the tribe or with the home or with their own family, because they've been living a different life, right? And the language is gone because you weren't allowed to speak it. And yeah, it doesn't bode well for future generations.
No, and it's like, I know some people are like, this, it's said and done, like, if you guys got the reconciliation going, but no, it's an ongoing thing. Like, this is how do you call it? It's generational trauma that people are living right now, and there's the lack of coping mechanisms that they didn't know how to run to a parent because they weren't allowed running to a nun or anything. They had to self-soothe in residential school. And I remember specifically, the first time I went to camp to take a camp job, my son was about 4 or 5. And he was staying home with my mom and my stepdad. And my stepdad's he was a residential school survivor, right?
Okay.
And he called me at camp and he's like, you get back right now. And when I came back and I was like, what's going on? And I've never seen him cry before in my life. Like, my dad was pretty stoic, my stepdad. And he cried and he said, he's like, I can't stand hearing him cry like that. It's all you'd hear at school. Nobody would ever come for us. Nobody would ever come for us. And he just said, you don't leave him. He's not ready for that. And it was the trauma that my dad went through when he was a child. He was taken at 5 years old and he wasn't returned until he was 15. And when he was 15, he actually got drafted to go to the NHL, and he declined that because he would rather be home with his parents because he hasn't seen them for 10 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite the story. Has he dealt with that since, or is it still a trauma? I don't know. Like, people deal with things in a different way.
He was actually a leader in our community for a really long time.
Right.
But it took a long time for him to be able to tell me he loved me. Like, him and my mom got married when I was 11 years old.
Okay.
And I was a bratty little kid to begin with, and then finally I accepted him. And I was like, when my son was born, he was there all the time, and I had the most amazing stepdad. And
right
on. And I would tell him all the time, "Love you, Dad." Yeah.
Excellent. We've got a question from the audience, and I hate to segue away from what we were talking about, but what advice would you have for people who wanted to do their own walk across wherever they lived, across the United States, Canada, Europe? I mean, there's a whole bunch of places where
if you're doing it for a cause, like if you're doing it for a cause, first of all, be ethical about it. Like, if you're doing it for a cause, make sure it's not some kind of party across the country. The other thing is, if you have stuff in your past and maybe you shouldn't be walking for certain things, because we've encountered that already. We've encountered somebody that was walking when they had clear court documents indicating they shouldn't be walking for that cause, right?
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, which was it's pretty damning to the whole movement, right? So be ethical about it, first of all. And if you're just
a little bit more planning.
Yeah.
we did this on like 4 days.
And 2 to 3 pairs of runners to rotate. I found out that when you were asking about how my feet were,
Yes.
The reason why I kept getting blisters is because I was buying the wrong size shoes. I know I'm 8.5. Yeah, and the other thing is your feet do swell. Yeah, your feet do swell quite a bit, right? So it's even go a half size bigger. Just during the day, it'll swell. Yeah, and to pack lots of bandages, pack first aid kits, pack tick remover kits, pack your stuff that you would use to your home remedies kind of stuff.
Right.
I'm not big on ibuprofen or any over-the-counter pain medication. Tylenol is like it's a last resort for us, so we do turmeric quite a bit. A turmeric tea, we just mix it in with our lemonade, and that works great, and it helps with the your kidneys and all that kind of stuff as well. So
all right, I hear that bird whistling
Yeah,
on your website, and I missed that. You hear that out in Prince George quite a bit, right? So
yeah, sure you do.
It's
This stuff stinks.
and another. Oh, you smell it?
I can smell it.
It's finally on now. You could probably
it works
see
now, eh?
Yeah, it's finally
You see the
working.
red?
Right.
It wasn't red before that.
Okay.
So now it's like kind of fuming.
Yeah.
Another thing that they should they should do a little bit of training if they can.
Walk to walk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prepared to
That's
get
right.
baked in the prairies. And yeah, it was like
And the rain too, you had?
rain gear,
Yeah,
good
the
rain
rain.
gear, and get the spray to redo your rain gear every once in a while to respray it and seal it.
Right.
Yeah, but definitely a couple pairs of shoes so that way they bounce back. You give them time to bounce back after you walk on them for a day, so you can rotate them. Your feet.
I
feel
would never have figured that one out. No.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm wishing for another pair right now because the other one I have is my camp shoes because they're too small, half size.
Oh, okay. Hey, I'm getting pushed because they're pushed for time here. So I'm wondering, can we talk again next week and only a little longer talk? I see it's getting dark right now with you too. It's getting hard to see you guys.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if
that'll
we
be
could bring you on sooner, and I'm gonna crawl through your Facebook pages, you know that, eh?
Yeah, crawl through them. You could check out Cameron's TikTok too. He has some stuff going on there. It's Camelius18.
CAMILUS 18.
Okay, why that name? Can I ask?
I don't know. I just had it forever, and
Since
every
we're in high
handle.
school. Since you were in high school.
Yeah, since in high school, I've been using it, and it's not taken through all platforms. Whatever one I have.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear. Boy, is it ever start? It's getting dark like quick. Jeez.
Yeah. So did you tell them about the truck?
Oh no, there we go. You can see us now.
Yeah. So we had troubles with the truck.
yeah.
The AC wasn't working, and the windows weren't going up or down.
Yeah. Like,
so
that was brutal.
my wife was like frantically calling before we left, and she found a place at like 3 p.m. the night before we're leaving, and they got us in, got the windows working, and they got the AC working as well. Not to the full extent, but they did get it working. Like,
okay.
We went to church the night before, and he's like, whatever you need, we'll help you out. And the church actually helped pay for it. Like,
wow,
like bless them. Yeah.
And the guy at the mechanics there, he knew, or we told him what we were doing, because obviously you could tell with the truck, right? And the flags and everything. Yeah, and I don't know if he's just
everything
super
at cost
effective, but everything was super cheap. It was less than $300. Like $250 to get the AC done and to get
the windows working.
Yeah, what do you call that? The harness?
Yeah, the wiring harness for the window. So he took the old one out and like rewired it. So
okay. That's old school.
Yeah.
After replacing the whole thing, he rebuilt it. So that's good.
Yeah.
And anybody out there in YouTube land, if you want to help out, there'll be links to Facebook and to Gmail. and to the TikTok. And
Yeah.
we
I've been
shall,
trying to learn TikTok. I'm trying, so I've been trying to post all of our news articles on
You'll
there.
get some good laughs on my TikTok.
Yeah, his is funny.
I'm going to use it too. And you guys, you know, happy, well, somebody says happy hiking, but more happy healing. I don't know.
It is actually quite a healing journey.
Healing
Thank
walk,
you.
and
Yeah,
a lot of people
It's really great.
are affected by what's happened and are affected by your challenge to people to walk a mile with you guys. So I hope everybody will do that and then post it on your Facebook would be nice too as well. If we can get some people doing
that's
that.
very encouraging, and it's nice to see that, like just the interaction.
Yeah. So if anybody out there wants to support us and just do a walk, that's nice. And just post a picture on our Facebook. It's just go for a walk. His family has been doing that at home. They've just been doing, because they can't come and join the Cross Canada. They just go for a walk at home and they'll send us a picture.
Okay.
And that's amazing.
You guys are amazing, and thank you so much for doing this. And I can't wait to talk to you again a little longer, if you don't mind, next week. So
if you know anyone in Ottawa, we'll be there.
I do actually know a couple of people in Ottawa, and we have a couple of members from the crew here in Ottawa. So maybe we'll try to do so. When are you going to be in Ottawa, you think? I don't know Justin personally. Like, he didn't give me his cell number, but he gave everybody else the cell number. He doesn't want me calling him. So.
Oh
yeah. So the Sergeant Alana.
Yeah.
Sergeant Alana Morris said, "Do you expect to do anything in Ottawa?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "I'll be there." And
that would be nice. If we could get a group of people to just show up, maybe, I don't know, where would you go? Parliament Hill? Would you?
Yeah, Parliament Hill.
It sounds like my food's burning.
Okay.
So,
bye, guys. Bye, Cameron.
Bye,
Charity.
Have a good night. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you for giving us an update. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Twilight Zone's coming up right away. So I think we're going to close the show. What do you think, Lane?
Marvelous. Marvelous.
It's wonderful what they're doing, right?
It is. All power to them.
Yes. And to everybody who supports them. That would be great if people would do a video and send in onto the Facebook or a TikTok. If you TikTok, do you Twitter? I don't know.
Yeah.
But just some kind of support. It would be nice to get a group up at Parliament Hill. And
any activism really.
Right.
Any activism really should be promoting here if you wanted to promote.
Right. I guess we're going to close the show out now. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Links are in the description. Information for what we've shown today are in the description. Join the club. It's a good club. It's an autonomous collection of automoses.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. And thank you, everybody, and all their guests. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.